Hello team and welcome back to the Football Social live on Football Daily and Soccer M's YouTube pages, and you're joining us for a battle for the Champions League. It's 8th place versus 5th place, 7 and 3 points respectively behind the UCL places. So we've got a lot to play for. The home side, lest we forget, absolutely terrible before the break, winless in 6 games, and United were unbeaten in 11, kept 9 clean sheets in the process and scored 29. But of course, Harry Kane is back. Marcus Rashford is back. There's a lot of variables, and we have a lot of guests as well. Joining us in the studio, 5-time Premier League winner, bona fide United legend, is of course Mr. Darren Fletcher. Big clap. What a name to have on the show. What a man. A Celtic to boot as well. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thanks. And that was a very nice welcome. Thank you very much, lads.
You're very welcome. And how are you feeling about today's game, Darren?
To be honest, I'm absolutely buzzing. I don't know what it is. There's so many subplots involved in the game. Obviously, football being back. We've seen a few games already, but obviously not United. And, just buzzing for it. Can't wait. Honestly, I've been excited all day. Can't wait to get it started.
Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait to get it started. Yeah,
United,
definitely. That's
not great on the road. 4 wins in their last 18, Darren. But you're confident here?
I'm always confident. The form they were in pre-lockdown, that doesn't count for anything. But, it almost came at a bad time for United. You can say we've got a few players back from injury, Pogba and Rashford, but things were just starting to happen with Bruno's arrival, and that sort of got put to the side. But I've seen how hard they've been training. I've heard good reports about how fit the lads are and how dedicated they were in lockdown. So for me, I'm really confident. And, you go to an away game, there's no fans to deal with. It's a massive advantage. Home advantage is the fans making it a difficult place to go, spurring on the home team. There's none of that in play today. It's the first time United have been to that stage. They're going to go there and relish it.
Yeah. Unless you're playing at the Arsenal Stadium, in which case it doesn't matter because the atmosphere would be exactly the same. Talking of confidence, Joseph Tomlinson, how are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad.
Always confident.
I'm usually confident, but this feeling I've got of football coming back, it's got me feeling all different types of things. I don't know whether I'm confident, whether I'm nervous, whether United are going to hammer Spurs today, or what is even going to happen, because I've just forgotten what Man United playing football makes me feel like, because I'm all over the place here.
Well, that's why you're on the show. You're supposed to tell us what's going to happen. How do you see this one playing out?
I know. This is going to be cagey, in my opinion. This is going to be a classic Jose Mourinho game. I've seen loads of people predicting, 3-0 Man United, 3-1 Man United. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. I think Jose Mourinho is going to shut up shop pretty early. And with Harry Kane and Heung-min Son back in the team, Tottenham definitely are going to be dangerous on the counter-attack. So for me, this is going to be a close one, not the runaway result that some people were predicting.
Yeah, some exciting names back on the team sheets, and another exciting name back in the studio. I keep referring to it as the studio. What else can I refer to it as? It's Sam Obaseki. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. But as usual, I am on the social corner. So if you have your questions, get them to me at SoccerEM or at Football Daily with the hashtag TFS. If you don't have social media, then you can go on YouTube and get it in the comments below. And yeah, we'll get your question answered.
Lovely jubbly. And for the sakes of balance, you're going to be a Tottenham fan. And why is that?
Boo!
I wouldn't say, okay, wait. I wouldn't say fan.
Traitor.
I'd say
Traitor.
I'm supporting them getting more points than United, because obviously United are 3 points away from us. If they get the 3 points, then they're level. So I don't really want that.
Okay, fair enough. Right, gentlemen, great to have each and every one of you on board. Let's check out the Premier League table then, just before we start, really previewing this game. Of course, Norwich losing convincingly to Southampton, which leaves them rooted to the bottom of the Premier League table on 21 points. And I will be asking Joe to explain his comments off air that Norwich are possibly the worst Premier League side of all time, barring
Not the worst. I never said the worst. Don't take me out.
Let's go to the top half of the Premier League
one
table.
of the worst. One of the worst. Don't try and twist my words.
Right, I'm throwing him under the bus there, getting that in early doors. I'm just delighted to be here. I'm not disconnected yet, lads. Right, okay. As we explained earlier, it's 8th and 5th competing for that last Champions League berth. Third looks a little bit beyond these teams at this point. Tottenham, with all that money spent, won't wanting to be finishing below Sheffield United and Wolves. No disrespect to those sides, but it is a star-studded lineup at Tottenham when he can get all his names, Jose Mourinho, all his big hitters on the pitch at the same time. Which leads us to the Spurs formation. Here we go. Right, we'll zip through this one quickly because I'm guessing you guys are less invested in the Manchester United lineup. But already that back four is worrying me, and I'll ask for your opinion on that in a second. Winks and Sissoko, the midfield pivots, Bergwijn, Lamela, Son and Kane making up that forward four unit. And Son has scored in his last 5 appearances against Manchester United, so often the scourge of the Red Devils. But Harry Kane actually has a pretty bad record against United, a goal every 475 minutes. It's his worst return in the Premier League, so can he put that right today? Let's go with United then before we talk about this fixture in its entirety. So Manchester United, Joe was telling me, had a great start. I'm going to rob it off him. Have played a 4-2-3-1 in 35 in 46 of their games. So this was a little bit predictable. But of course, Rashford returns after that stress fracture to his back. Very welcome news. And he is now currently favourite to be the next Prime Minister of Great Britain and will be getting my vote accordingly. Right, let's talk about these lineups then, starting with Tottenham. And I'm going to come to you, Darren. Where do you think Manchester United can exploit in that lineup, mate?
Well, first and foremost, you see Sergio Aurier at right back and you think Marcus Rashford. Sergio Aurier is an attacking fullback, let's be honest, and he leaves gaps in behind him and he's rash in his decision-making and he's tackling around the edges. I look at Spurs' defence as a whole and think to myself, that can be got at. You know, when you see Vertonghen and Alderweireld on the bench, no real protection in front of them. Sissoko is a box-to-box runner. Winks is a nice footballer. And I think there's a massive opportunity tonight looking at the teams for Manchester United, especially looking at Spurs' back four.
Yeah, I agree. Very sensible opinions. And I've got to say, Darren, you've probably got the best backdrop we've had on the show yet. Lovely little pool table sitting back there. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Extremely jealous.
I don't know where. I'd never know where to put my camera for stuff like this. I'm just trying to get away.
It's a lot nicer than my clinical white wall anyway. Joseph, now you've seen both the lineups, a little bit more confident. Yeah. Again, where do you think Manchester United can get at Tottenham? Is there any standout weak links, barring Sergio Aurier, so we don't talk about him again?
Yeah, I do. I definitely agree with Darren. That right back is going to be a problem for Tottenham. But I also, just touching upon something he mentioned there, of that lack of protection in front of that back line from Moussa Sissoko and Winks. I think they're going to have a real job on their hands trying to pick Bruno Fernandes up in between the lines. Neither of them, I would say, is a classic defensive midfielder who's going to be in there looking to break up the play and do a job on him. And Bruno Fernandes, if given the chance, is going to exploit teams that leave big holes in that 10 space. And that's something he's done in the 5 games he's played in the Premier League for Manchester United. And I think it's something he'll probably look to do again. So for me, it's a little bit of a surprise that he hasn't shored up more in the defensive midfield area for Tottenham Hotspur, Jose Mourinho. But nevertheless, he's obviously going a little bit more attacking than we first thought he would.
Yeah, Fernandes, as you mentioned there, been deadly since coming into the side. Most goal involvements on 5, most chances created with 11, and shots on 19. Sam, what do you think to that Tottenham side? As a Chelsea fan, any envy there? You know, seeing Harry Kane return. I know you've signed Timo Werner recently, but do you think that Chelsea can fend off the advances of this Tottenham side, or do you even think they're in it? Is it a non-starter talking about them as a Champions League club?
Yeah, I don't think they're in it, but I think if they get off to a good start in this game, they might gain the confidence. But again, Jose Mourinho has proven that he's very stubborn. He was training with Ndombele during quarantine, and I genuinely thought that this was going to be the time to either start Ndombele or Lo Celso, and he's stuck with them on the bench. So I'm not really sure with this one. I think it's going to be a United win.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Jose Mourinho in the United presser, and he looked tanned, he looked relaxed. I think he's been in the garden. Must have green fingers. Right, let's discuss the United lineup then. Darren, is that United's strongest 11? Short of Pogba?
Well, obviously you got Pogba. I feel Matic is a little bit unlucky to miss out. I thought his form was fantastic pre-lockdown. He'd really come back into the team off the bat. I think he came on at half-time against Man City in the League Cup and changed the game a little bit. And then from there, his form has been fantastic. And I think the goals conceded with him in the team declines almost. He makes them a lot more solid. But Fred and McTominay have been great as well, provide great energy to allow Bruno to do his thing. And there's no real surprises in the United team, to be honest. I expected Pogba to be on the bench, long injury layoff. It's very difficult to adapt to the Premier League, and I think he's a perfect example of that. I almost found him trying too hard sometimes. He was almost doing things that wasn't really him, especially shooting from 30 and 40 yards. And sometimes when you maybe have a couple of bad passes and then you accelerate that with a shot from 40 yards or a volley from 40 yards, especially your weaker foot, he seemed to be doing things like that were multiplying his bad performances. He's always had great energy, tenacious in the tackle. Again, he was doing a little bit too much stud rolling in that. That's all right for wingers, not for central midfielders in the Premier League. And I think he's slowly adapted his game and got used to it. And I'm really pleased for him because he held his hands up and accepted he wasn't good enough. And he's risen to the challenge of being a Manchester United player. And I love to see players come back from difficult starts. It shows great personality, which is what you need to be a Man United player. We talk about Bruno Fernandes is there to be seen. The biggest thing for me is this personality that he's brought to Manchester United, because you need more than ability to be a Man United player.
Yeah, I think the United sides that you were in proved that as well. Plenty of character. During your 12-year stay at the club, filling those changing rooms, which I will come on to, no doubt. Joseph, any last sort of comments on the lineup before we go to our price boosts now the teams are out?
No, not too many. I think we'll probably see Paul Pogba have an impact at half-time or 60 minutes. Obviously, we've seen 5 substitutes allowed now, and we saw in that Man City game just how crucial substitutions can be. So I would imagine that Paul Pogba will definitely be involved tonight, and it'll all come down to whether or not United are leading at half-time or behind at half-time. If you need a player to come on and have an impact, there's not many better in world football than having Paul Pogba to come off the bench and create a few chances. So it might be a little blessing in disguise, that he's on the bench and can come on and have an impact at sort of 60 minutes if he isn't fit enough to play a full 90.
Yes, sage words there from Tomlinson. Right, let's have a look at the price boost then from our sponsors, Sky Bet. Here we have it. Harry Kane to score first was 4-1, now is 5-1. They must have heard my comment about his goal return against United. Marcus Rashford to score a brace. He was, of course, flying before the break, injuries aside. He was 7-1 to execute that feat, now 10-1. Harry Maguire to score a header, affectionately known as Slabhead by his former Leicester teammates, was 16-1, now 20-1. And Bruno Fernandes, who we're backing to light up this game, to score from outside the penalty area, was 10-1, now 11-1. Don't forget, we said he led 4 shots on 19, so he does love a pop. Odds accurate at the time of recording. You have to be 18 plus to play along, of course. And when the fun stops, we stop, don't we? Full stop. Right. We've got 1 minute before kickoff. Sam, are the questions flooding in? I don't want to throw you under the bus here, because we've just got a lovely shot at the new stadium, and it's crying out for a question to tee us up.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions, and this one is coming from Rich94, who has said, how has Man United changed tactically since Ole took over from Jose? So that is for you, Darren.
Tactically, not too much in terms of formations and things like that. It's more taking the game to the opposition. United press a lot more without the ball. I think the biggest change is without the ball. I think Jose, we know, likes to allow the other team to have possession, let the team come back into the low block I think under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've tried to press a little bit more and play the game in the opposition's half a lot more, win the ball back, a lot more energy in the team. And I think that formation-wise, it's not been too similar, but definitely in terms of what he expects of the players and how he goes about it, there's been a massive change. And less of a tactical, you're more of a freedom. Go and express yourself. Go and take people on. Go and bring back that Manchester United spirit, which Alex Ferguson, which was tactical at times, but at the same time, a platform to go and express yourself, show what you're about, and the manager picks your talent to win the game, and not necessarily a tactic or a formation to win the game.
Yeah. As we can see there, the players taking a knee. Great to see that the Premier League is using the platform to bring attention to important issues like the Black Lives Matter movement. No doubt we'll be talking about that as the night progresses. And the game has kicked off,
United.
lads. And if I talk over any of you in the process, apologies in advance. But I'm sure we'd all like to see some goals. We'd welcome the chaos. I think Joe is absolutely primed to lose his head if we have a convincing
Are you looking
Manchester
so nervous
United
already, Joe?
victory.
I'm not looking nervous.
His
I'm
body
just tense.
so constricted, mate.
I've forgotten what it feels like to watch football and to watch and support your own team again. Do you know what I mean? Look at this already. It's dodgy at the back from Spurs, isn't it?
So just to touch upon, before we get some more questions from Sam and some reactions from Joe, just to touch upon something you were saying there, Darren, about the character that is needed to succeed at Manchester United, and it's something that's a little bit hard to decipher being outside the club. So do you think one of the reasons Jose didn't succeed was because he didn't really fit in with the pre-existing culture, whereas Ole's kind of come in and he's allowed things to be a bit more what we perceive as Manchester United?
Listen, you can look at Jose Mourinho's record and you can say he was successful. Maybe the brand of football was different to what United fans expect, and especially off the back of Louis van Gaal's possession-based football, we didn't really get back to the United way either. United have been used to going back to the Busby Babes, fast attacking, wide wingers, exciting players who take the game to the opposition. And this feels like we're getting back to that. And I know the game's changed. The game's a lot more tactical nowadays. You can't deny that. There's a lot more emphasis on the team's play. But you can still have that freedom in your play. And I think we're seeing that from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's a different way of managing. And we talked about a cultural reset and how it was going to take a bit of time. And we were criticised for that in the beginning. But you're starting to see people are starting to see what Ole meant. And we're starting to see the rewards of it now. I knew it was going to take a little bit of pain, but I knew we'd get there eventually. And it's actually happened a little bit quicker than I thought. And it's amazing what one signing can do. And if we can add another couple like that, all of a sudden you're in a completely different position.
Yeah, the mood has changed a couple of times, and it has changed quickly. And Joe's, watching Joe in this period has been a bit of a roller coaster. Joe, are you finally starting to feel like Manchester United are ready now to be consistent, to challenge for Champions League places again, having kind of gone up and down, having been a little bit tumultuous over the last year and a half?
Yeah, I totally agree with Darren. I think that change, the Bruno Fernandes signing, has just had such a big impact on Manchester United, not just his goals and his assists and the way he wants to play the game, but also just the sort of aggression he wants to play with. He wants to play at 100 miles an hour and he demands the best from all of his colleagues. He's definitely one of the most vocal players I've seen when you talk about immediate signings. I remember the first game, he was demanding better from players around him. And that is something that I think sometimes Manchester United missed pre-Bruno Fernandes, a real leader in that midfield that was going to rattle some heads together. So I think his signing has just been monumental for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in terms of our form after Christmas.
Yeah, crazy that you didn't really have to compete with another club for his signature. Of course, had to pay a fair amount for him. Had that release clause, didn't he? But I think he's proven that it was a very worthwhile acquisition at any price. Sam, let's go to the Football Daily Massive for a question then.
Cool. This one comes in from Total Zebra, and it is for Darren again. Most of these questions are going to be for you, Darren, so just for you to be ready.
Where's
for
the questions for me? Oh, what do you mean? Just 'cause I've never played in the Prem.
No, you're not important. You're not important, bro. Anyway, this one is: you were teammates with Solskjaer and Carrick. Did it always look like they were getting into coaching?
Yeah, without a doubt. I knew Ollie was going to become a manager. Here we go. Spurs.
No.
Well done, Luke. Well done, Luke.
Yeah, listen, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was always going to become a manager. He loved the game. He used to take notes of sessions and Sir Alex Ferguson's teams talks. He used to play football manager on the plane, going to away games and on the coach. So he just really had that. He did his coaching badges early. And Michael Carrick's, the way he played, he's a reader of the game. He's a tactical player. His game knowledge is fantastic. Michael was not the most vocal, but definitely spoke at the right times and led by example and always took a keen interest in the tactical side. And I think his brother's been a coach for a long, long time. So and he's well advanced on his coaching badges. I think he's almost completed everything and works within the FA. So for Michael to have that reference point as well, and probably in dialogue all the time about coaching sessions, even while he was a player, he's definitely took that on board to the next stage. And it's great to see both of them at Manchester United. For me, it's fantastic to see my ex-teammates, people who I respect massively, especially in the position the club were in. It was what was needed. I think it was the right decision. And as I said before, it was never going to be instant success. It needed a lot of work behind the scenes and this cultural reset that we keep hearing. But that's what was needed. A little bit of pain, maybe 2 steps back to come again, and we're seeing the results of it now.
Yeah, looking forward to this insight, Darren. And what I was most impressed with there, mate, is your willingness to completely drop that question to focus in on the game when Tottenham looked like they were threatening early doors. And he's got his priorities right. Teed us up there for a bit of drama. We had that dramatic now Manchester United on the attack. Is that our first flash of Rashford sort of getting behind there? Joe, is he going to be the primary goal threat tonight?
Marcus Rashford, yeah. I think Marcus Rashford's having the season of his career, and he's just going to continue to get better and better. I actually think the break's probably done him the world of good. Obviously, had that stress fracture in his back, which is a fairly serious injury, and just really probably comes from playing too much at too young an age. So that probably is going to help him having an extra little bit of time off, not having to be rushed back into the team, play in the Europa League and stuff like that. Because obviously the Europa League is now taking place after the season's finished. So I think it's all of our goal scoring threat really comes through Rashford. Martial's a fabulous player, but Rashford is the guy you think is going to light up a single moment. I remember being at Stamford Bridge when he smashed that one top corner against your boys. Sam.
Why'd you have to bring that one up? I knew what you were doing.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, though. He's got that star quality. Just can make a moment out of nothing, which is few and far between, I think, at times at Manchester United. Obviously, Bruno's also got it, and so is that man there, Paul Pogba.
Yeah, for sure. No less got to protect you now, Sam. The jibes, they're coming. I told you I'd get my revenge. You better queue up some more questions because I'm going to come to you at the most inopportune moments. Darren, Joe just mentioned there that the gap might have benefited Marcus Rashford in a sense. Just from the players that you've spoken to, has it been quite bittersweet this period? You know, they get to spend a bit of time with their family, prolonged period off to rest and recuperate after playing a lot of football, or would they have, been geared up to play in the Euros, for example? Like, how have players taken it?
Probably a mixed bag, to be honest. Obviously, people who are injured are obviously, it's benefited them. The Euros being cancelled, Marcus Rashford and Harry Kane. I think for United as a whole, it probably came at a bad time because of the run we were on, and we seemed to be building a little bit of momentum, and people were playing really well. The form was good, the attacking play was good. So it's a frustrating time, but all you can do is deal with it. I'm sure the players enjoyed being with their family and things like that. They probably didn't know whether the season was going to even continue again, but you have to stay professional and get yourself ready. And by all accounts, the United lads were working so hard and doing so much fitness training, so they probably didn't even have a break, to be honest. A mental break, yes. I think we were talking about Mason Greenwood, in terms of he's probably at the rest and bulked up in the gym. You'll probably see a lot more when you're not doing as much cardio. You probably bulk up a lot more and put on a little bit of muscle and mass. So I thought we might see benefits from some players in that respect.
Yeah, great to hear about the United's players' professionalism. But in your time, who was the best trainer? Because there's some relentless trainers in the ranks of your sides.
Listen, training. Well, in terms of ability, or in terms of like how much they put into it, in terms of practice and things like that.
We've got 80 minutes, Darren. You can give us both.
Don't be too humble here, Flex. You can say yourself.
No, listen. I think we all recognise Scholesy was the best player in training every day. That's just a given. Like, he was just ridiculous. But in terms of, I think Ronaldo came in and opened everyone's eyes in terms of what almost becoming a footballer 24/7, having a team around him, having his own chef, doing his training at home, swimming, coming in early, practicing his free kicks. Ronaldo basically was 24/7, and we were dedicated. We'd do stuff after training. We'd get in early, but Ronaldo took that to the next level of doing stuff when he got home, and a personal chef and almost his own fitness training.
Sorry to interrupt.
Swimming and things like that.
Where do you think he got that from?
Just a clever lad and a desire to be the best player in the world, and recognised that that's what he had to do. It came to somebody has to, maybe it was somebody advised him, I don't know, maybe it's something he did at Sporting Lisbon, but he definitely brought it to Manchester United. Listen, we had the most professional bunch of lads and the hardest trainers, and people talk about United's training. We didn't have to switch on for games because the training was that intense, and the level and the competitiveness and the tackles and the arguments, and nobody wanted to referee our training games. I remember in the Man United saying he used to prepare for his training, like get himself up for the game. At United, there wasn't an on and off switch. It was literally match mode Monday through Friday. So you didn't say it's a game. Almost the games on Saturday became easier because of the level and the intensity of training.
Yeah, I mean, the depth in the squad, multiple squads when you were there, it was obscene at times, wasn't it? I just asked that former question because Ronaldo came to United as such a young man, and I wondered whether he'd seen a Roy Keane or a Ryan Giggs and thought, okay, that's what it takes, and then I'm going to go even further with it.
Well, maybe, but I'll tell you what he did learn from. He became a man quicker off the back of that dressing room, because there was no time for a young lad to be a young lad. You had to man up very quickly in that dressing room, and I bet he learned how to become a winner in that dressing room, because it was full of men who were there to win the title, and it didn't matter if you were young and from another country, you were part of it, and they let you know if your levels weren't good enough. So without a doubt, Ronaldo grew so much. I believe that was a big part of him being what he is today as well, coming into that dressing room at a young age, around those characters and around those winners and around that level. I'm sure Ronaldo was a fantastic trainer in terms of his individual stuff, but around that level every day in terms of competing to win every day, I'm sure that's definitely helped. And I'm sure he'll be the first to tell you that was definitely character building for him. It gave him so much resiliency and desire to be what he become.
Do you remember his first training session? Do you remember just him arriving and watching him in the flesh and just thinking, obviously you had that friendly, it's well documented, but yeah. Was he just obscene from the get-go?
Yeah, he was. It was the friendly, to be honest, which is folklore. Listen, we've arrived off a plane from America 2 hours before the game. We talk about the Arsenal players not being prepared for a flight up to Manchester. We've flown back to America and landed in Portugal about 2 hours before the game. So you've got to give John O'Shea a little bit of credit. Ronaldo is probably...
Hey, we've had him on the show.
Yeah, great guy. We were all probably... He still gets slaughtered to this day. Listen... No, but you could tell straight away the skills in that he was doing. It was probably a little bit too much. It was all about showing. It was all about skills. But you could see this ability was just ridiculous and something we'd never seen. And for somebody so young... one of the biggest things for me was how quickly he learned English. All these little things talk about a guy that's going places and has got a desire to dedicate himself, to better himself, to intricate himself. And I remember his first game he came on against Bolton. I can't remember who we were young. I think it was Nicky Hunt, right back, and he was doing step-overs and Cruyffing him and chopping him left, right and centre. And he was a nightmare to play against, but he was also frustrating at times as well. And it was eventually when he grew into the player that he became, obviously, that he recognised goals and assists are what gets you to world player of the year, not being a YouTube step overs player, that doesn't get you to being the best player in the world. It's goals and assists and winning things.
Did the first time he did a step over in training, did Roy Keane pull him?
Listen, he got nobody pulled him, but he got taught by kicks. If you want to do step overs, you better move the ball quickly because you're going to get smashed in a tackle. It's as simple as that. So he got plenty of 2-footers, and he loved it though. He bounced back up and would do it again. That was his character, you know what I mean? And trust me, he learned to move the ball quicker because his legs were cut and bruised every day. He thought to himself, listen, I'm going to have to start playing 1 and 2 touch at times and passing and moving. And then off the back of that, I remember I've told the story before, Walter Smith came in as assistant manager and decided not to give fouls in training. And I know that was to benefit Ronaldo. And then he started taking 1 and 2 touch, running without the ball, scoring goals, and that's when things clicked. Well, hold on a minute. You know, if I do this, I'm an athlete, I'm going to score lots of goals. So once he realised he was doing step overs and wasn't getting a foul, there was no point doing it.
Yeah, it became a machine. That was his first evolution. Right, Joseph.
Yeah, exactly.
15 minutes down into the game. We could listen to these anecdotes all day. But let's check in on the game. How's it been going in terms of, rhythm, flow?
Well, it's kind of as we said it was going to, isn't it? It's quite cagey affair. It's a classic Jose Mourinho system. They're sat very, very deep, and it's going to be a hard 90 minutes trying to play through this back line. Look, if you look there's five players along that back line, 2 sat in front. It's going to be a difficult 90 minutes trying to break it down. So not really much to report. I can't think of any big chances so far. Bruno's just starting to pick up the pace a little bit, I've noticed, but it's going to be a cagey one. Players are unfit. That's a good turn. Players are unfit, and it's a cagey defensive system from Jose. So this is got 0-0 written all over it early doors.
Don't say that. We need the views. We'll have to get a soundbite from Darren on Ronaldo if we don't get some goals. Breaking news. All right, Sam, let's go to the questions then. What are people saying?
Cool. This one is from Clive Brown, and it is for Darren again. It is, have you played in a game behind closed doors, and does it dramatically affect the players?
Great question.
A good question, yeah. I've never played in a game behind closed doors, but I can only relate it to coming up and maybe playing reserve games and things like that, or training ground games. And training ground games, yes, I noticed the difference because it was at the training ground. I think any time I went to a reserve game and it was quite an empty stadium, it still felt like a proper game. So that's what I'm hoping. I was worried it would end up like training ground games, which can be, they're good for about 20 minutes and then they just fall apart. And people think because it's at the training ground, it doesn't have the same feel. Oh, that's a bad tackle, that.
How's he not got booked for that? John Ross,
yeah.
Lamella's a bit feisty.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fire in him.
It's getting a little bit cagey, isn't it? We've got our first sort of in-game price boosts for you. Let's have a little reminder of the latest from our sponsors, Sky Bet. And I'm going to have to move myself on my iPad so I can Manchester United to win and both teams to score was 7-2, is now 9-2 odds accurate at the time of recording. And they are subject to change, of course, and you have to be 18 plus to play along. Joe, look like Manchester United, more specifically Daniel James was in there.
Great ball.
How about that pass by Marcus Rashford? My word.
That's why Marcus Rashford likes to play there. I think Joe alluded to it before the game. Marcus he likes touches. He's not he's got assists in his bag. He wants the ball. He wants to make things happen. I think Marcus will be one of those players that's a 15 goals, 15 assists. I think he's going to be one of those players that like that inside forward because his range of passing is fantastic. Not comparing him to Messi, but you know how Messi comes deep and he can play those balls because he knows the balls that strikers like because he's a striker himself. Marcus has got that ability in his locker as well, and we were seeing signs of that before his injury. I think I agree with Joe. He was on the verge of he's having his best season, but he was on course to really hit elite level, and that potential is in Marcus Rashford. I think sky's the limit for him potential wise.
And do you think, touching upon what you just said there and going back to Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, scored 40 plus goals in a season, do you think those days are kind of over owing to the fact that wingers are now responsible or inside forwards for chipping in
Inside
significantly
forwards, yeah.
with goals. We see it at Liverpool, we see it at Manchester United now with Rashford and Martial. Are you saying? Do you think that Ollie would be, happy splitting those goals along that forward line and not being reliant on any one player?
No, I think he would like an out and out. I think he'd like his centre forward to score 25, 30 goals without a doubt. But I think we've seen, as you said, we've seen the evolution of football in terms of these inside forwards, how they are goal scorers and how they attack the spaces between the fullbacks. That's the evolution of the way things has gone, and that's where Marcus Rashford likes to play. People talked about him as a centre forward when he came into the team. Marcus played all his youth career as a left winger, and that's exactly the role he wants to play. He wants to be an inside left forward where he can come short, get on the ball, get touches, he can create, he can run in behind, he can have multiple layers to his game. But I'm sure Ollie was in the United team as well that had 4 strikers that all chipped in with goals. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was an out-and-out goal scorer. And as well, when Ollie played wide, which he did a lot, he was a goal-scoring wide midfielder in a 4-4-2, so he knows that role as well.
That touch by Bruno. Did we see that touch by Bruno just there?
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Deary me.
Reminds me a bit of me. Just saying.
And then a bit of a rugby tackle there from Ben Davies to stop Fred in his tracks. Are United employing that sort of counter-attacking football that we see them execute so successfully in these sort of fixtures earlier on in the season, Joe? Or is it a bit more 50-50?
Look, it depends how the opposition's set up. I think it's fairly obvious United definitely play on the counter-attack and look to hit the bigger teams when there's space. The Manchester Cities, Ollie's had great success against top 6 rivals. I think they've taken the second most points off the top 6 of any of the top 6. I think Liverpool obviously top, but he's got that success from using Marcus Rashford, Martial, Dan James's pace in behind high pressing defences. When we play against smaller teams, we've sometimes struggled because you don't have that space in behind, and it's something that I'm sure Bruno is going to help with, to unlock backlines a little bit better, and it's something that our fullbacks, I think, need to work on a little bit more. This man in particular, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, great going backwards. That's good football. Great going backwards. Still working on his game going forwards, but he's definitely improving every single goal.
Oh! Good save.
What happened there? Take us through that snapshot.
That was a quality save.
Oh, I think it's just kind of bumbled to him, and he's a little bit unlucky with it, Rashford. Snapshot of his left foot. That's terrible defending by Davinson Sanchez. Hit it! Weaken it. And that is what Fletcher was talking about earlier, not having Fred shooting. Get him back.
Tottenham looking a bit more porous.
He's got a screamer in him, though.
Taking control the last 5 minutes. I actually think he's got the... I saw an article by a sports analyst company mentioning no names, and he is statistically the worst shooter in the Premier League.
Fred,
so I don't know where you got that info
honestly,
from, Sam.
Honestly,
that wasn't a... Can I just come in? That was the right situation to shoot. It's other times, especially last year, he was shooting from 40 yards. Yeah. He did the right thing there. He pretended to shoot on his right, chopped onto his left. His left's not his strongest foot. He hit the target. That wasn't a bad situation. But again, you see, that chance here for United came from Bruno's quick ball into the box. He made Davinson Sanchez, I think it was, defend uncomfortably, flicked a header, and it falls to Rashford. Good connection with his left foot. He's just unfortunately goes straight to the goalkeeper's feet. But that comes from a little bit of a... You see it from Bruno, just quick, reverses the ball in.
Oh, great save. It's a great save.
As a good
Rashford just reacts.
Well. Good purchase on it.
It's a reaction save as well.
Right, while they're taking a water break, Sam, I think perfect time to have a couple more questions and to encourage people to subscribe to the channel and to, keep them coming, because Darren is ticking them off. He's knocking them out of the park.
So this one comes from Jake to the Max, and it says, the goal line issue with Villa versus Sheffield United obviously was a madness. So what are your memories from the Pedro Mendes, Roy Carroll incident?
Do you know what? This came on yesterday. Me and my kids were watching it upstairs, and I've gone, it's never over the line, just winding them up. I was on the pitch, and I could clearly see it went over the line. At the time, obviously, you're relieved the referee doesn't give it, and you feel for Roy Carroll. He gets away with one because that's one of those that, if it does, the referee does give it for his mistake, it becomes even bigger. the fact, obviously, we still talk about it, we know it goes in, but he gets away with it slightly as well because the fact that the referee doesn't give it, and now the margins really. So I was relieved for Roy Carroll because, you know, it's not easy being Manchester United goalkeeper, and Roy was a great guy, and I was just more relieved of the fact that if he'd have made the mistake and the goal had been given and United would have gone on to lose the game, it would have had a bigger impact on him. But it should have been a goal, and we have got goal line technology. I think the only thing you can say is that's the first mistake in how long, and how many goals were given and not given.
9,000.
Yeah, how many goals were given and not given for these sort of instances over the years. So I think you've got to flip it and see the positive. Should never happen. It's terrible for Sheffield United and the season they're having, but thankfully it doesn't affect relegation more than anything. You know, we're talking about Sheffield United going for Champions League places, which, you know, they'll be gutted by it.
Dan James getting
Go on, DJ.
Getting some space down the right there. Fails to put it in.
How much room?
That's the only thing he's lacking.
Just going back to
another
United,
thing about
Tottenham,
that game.
Darren.
Yeah.
Just going back to United Tottenham. When Fergie says it's only Tottenham, is that all he needs to say in that era?
That was before my time, but
going
forward
from there until Poch comes in, do you just think Tottenham, no great shakes?
No, listen, we fancied it. We went on the pitch thinking we could beat anybody, but we knew Tottenham had a talented team. But we were the sort of team that would back ourselves. If you want to fight, we'll fight you. If you want to play football, we'll play football. You know, that was the sort of mentality we had. So we knew if it came to a footballing game and Spurs were maybe outplaying us on the day, which can happen, we knew we could fight and grind it out and maybe bully them a little bit to get the result as well. And that's sort of the mentality that we had at the time. We kind of alluded to the same as Arsenal as well. We knew Arsenal were a fantastic footballing team, but, you know, if you want an aggressive fight, we can drop into a low block, we can make it difficult for you, and we'll punish you on the break when you get nice and open and play your expansive football.
Yeah, I've heard you speak a lot about mentality, particularly when it was, returning to football from your illness, which I'm sure we'll move on to in the second half. Well worth touching upon. But how big a role did mentality play?
Oh no!
He's on.
Oh
my God!
This after we break down that goal. Sorry, mate. It's your job to take us through.
It's
unreal by Bergwijn. It's unreal. Yeah. It's unreal by Bergwijn. I think it's Tottenham's first attack, isn't it? But it's fantastic play by Bergwijn, just dancing his way through the Man United backline. As a fan, I'd be saying someone's got to lay a boot on him before he gets into the box and probably bring him down. It felt like for me. He's offside, is he?
No. Could be offside.
Not one of these, is it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe not. It's coming back now.
Son was offside.
Oh dear. Second phase of play. He looks
not
so
entirely sure about
De Gea.
Not entirely sure about De Gea's kick, but I think somebody's got to bring him there. I think Fred's got to probably do a bit of a dark arts job on him there and bring him down. But it's very good play by Bergwijn. Soft by David De Gea, though, isn't it?
Darren, I was about to comment on Maguire's body position there. It may have been Lindelof, it may have been Maguire, but as someone who is
this is going to be given offside for Son's heel.
Would that be a fair comment?
Say again, sorry.
I was about to comment on it may have been Maguire, it may have been Lindelof's body position as a key contributor to that goal, but then I realised I'm a fairly bang average defender. So what do you make of that in the build up?
I think Harry Maguire will be disappointed when he watches that back. I think he's allowed Bergwijn. I think he's seen Bergwijn's right-footed and he's almost allowed him to go on his left and he's accelerated into the space and then got back onto his right foot to have the shot. So I think he's positioned himself too far over to the left to stop Bergwijn taking him on the right-hand side. And Bergwijn's seen the opportunity between him and he might say that his defensive partner Lindelof should be over a bit covering that. But Bergwijn's used his pace. That's why it surprises you when you hear people say about defenders, show him onto his weaker foot. If you show them too much, they can go that way, then get back onto their good fight, as Bergwijn's done there. Fred, maybe, he's always chasing from behind. It would be a cynical foul. Maybe looking in hindsight, he might have took him down. David will think he can do better. But it's actually great individual play from Bergwijn, let's be honest. It's you can always look at goals and pick holes in it defensively, and we will from a United point of view. But it's a fantastic individual goal. And out of nothing, really. That Son was offside from the goalkeeper's kick, so I'm not sure why. Maybe because it's second phase, because Luke Shaw heads it back, then they take it from there. So,
Like Joe
United
said,
have
that's a
got
very rare
challenge
foray
on them.
forward for Tottenham. Is it booting off in the comments, Sam? What are we saying?
I'm not in the comments right now.
Oh!
I'm on the questions. Oh!
Almost an instant
How's
reply
that
there
not
from
gone in?
United.
How's it not gone in?
Wow.
How did that not go in?
Gonna get
What
in
a
the
ball
comments.
this is, by the way, by Fred.
Great ball
What
by
a ball.
Fred, yeah.
Oh, my word.
Oh.
Is that Marcus? Just couldn't get a head on it, could he? Just couldn't get...
Marcus.
Hugo Lloris keeps it out.
Oh.
Davinson
Manchester United
Sanchez
there
has done
almost
well.
with an instant reply. That definitely looked like it was going in for a fleeting moment.
People are saying they
Now,
thought it was
Tottenham
offside.
cleared a corner. Right, back to the comments.
Yeah, I
then.
think it's offside as well, yeah.
People are saying they thought it was offside. Saying this is what Jose really wanted. He's gonna set up another bus.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Yeah,
I will say,
I
though,
think people have
just to
realised
bring
it's
up...
the perfect scenario for Jose.
Just to bring up that David De Gea error, I think that's now the most errors leading to goals of any goalkeeper in the league. And if I was Dean Henderson, I would be fancying a shot at that number 1 jersey next season. I'm sure he backs himself. He seems a very confident young man, and he's having a fantastic season for Sheffield United. It's just whether or not he can think to himself now, do you know what, I can have that number 1 shirt next season, or whether he wants to spend another season at Sheffield United on loan and then probably take it the year after.
I don't think he'll come until he knows he's going to be number 1. If that's the case, I think that he'd much rather go on loan and play games. He's got plenty of time on his hands. Goalkeepers have long careers, they probably don't peak till they're a little bit older. David De Gea is still a fantastic keeper. It's a great position for United to be in, to have Dean Henderson there. A fantastic goalkeeper. And I think you're right. He will back himself. He's a confident lad. But we have seen it before, Ben Foster was a fantastic goalkeeper, played one with West Brom and did well at Watford, and then it's that jump to Man United's a big jump, the level.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that won't.
What
great,
a save.
What a save.
Talking about
There we go.
Save.
David De Gea restores his reputation in the space of 3 minutes with a great save.
But this
from
is what
Son,
Tottenham
like we
want
said.
now. They want
Has a great record
United
against
to attack.
United, yeah. So what are we saying there, Darren? This is what Tottenham...
No, this
from a
is
tactical
exactly
point of
what
view
Tottenham will want now. Yeah, this is Mourinho in it. 1-0 up, sit back. United get open and expansive, trying to break them down. They've got pace in the wide areas to hit United on the counter-attack. Son getting in there. Great header. Fantastic save by De Gea. Keeps them in the game.
What a save. Who's the best keeper you played with? You mentioned some names there.
Yeah, no, listen. It's David and Edwin van der Sar, the two of them. I can't split them, to be honest. I played with both of them. They're both fantastic. Yeah, David coming in as a really young keeper, and Edwin on the flip side probably signed him at 34 and then going on to play till he was pushing 40. And the impact that he had on the team as well was fantastic. So I've probably seen Edwin at his peak almost and a more experienced goalkeeper. But then to see David De Gea come in as a young lad and have a tough first season, but recognising Sir Alex Ferguson and Eric Steele recognising that this kid's going to go on and be the best goalkeeper in the world one day, and again giving young players time to settle into this country, and then look what he did off the back of that. So it was amazing to see two goalkeepers almost at different stages of the career, but both world class at the same time.
Yeah, Ferguson got most of those signings right, didn't he? Did you ever feel... I mean, this is a little bit of a gear change, but was there any signings made at United who you were convinced were going to make a big impression, and then for whatever reason, reasons we're not privy to, it just didn't work out for them?
Well, Veron, it was a little bit before my time, but I was a massive Juan Sebastian Veron fan. But the biggest thing for us was everyone calls Veron a flop, and that's really harsh. He was a top-class player who's had some fantastic moments. Again, Veron's problem was he was used to running the midfield at all the other teams he played for. You come to United, Roy Keane runs the midfield, and you've got Paul Scholes there as well. I think the Scholes, and it just didn't quite happen for him. And he was a little bit of a maverick. He was almost very similar to Bruno Fernandes in a lot of ways. He had a lot of shots. He liked to make things happen. He liked to play in the number 10. At that time, United, we still liked 4-4-2, and then he'd have to play wide. In training, he was an absolute joke. And watching him and Paul Scholes play two-touch in the dressing room was just a joy to behold.
Yeah, Yeah, it does feel like we were sort of robbed of a great player there in that sort of era of Premier League football for kind of, like you said, tactical reasons and maybe some reasons unknown. But
yeah, exactly. Just settling into the country, the league, and tactical reasons, how good United were at the time. To see him on the training ground was just an absolute joy to watch, and he was a world-class player. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Diego Forlan as well. I used to watch Diego Forlan practice out training, and he used to put the ball in the top corner from outside the box with bags of balls for hours, left and right foot. We never really seen it at United. He goes to Atletico Madrid, and that practice and what United, Sir Alex Ferguson in that scene came to fruition with top goal scorers at the World Cup for Uruguay, all his goals in Spain, Atletico Madrid, Villarreal. The things he went on to become was what we've seen at United. Again, it just didn't quite happen for him because he didn't get a goal after a long time. He was in the team with big personalities, Ruud van Nistelrooy, lots of top-class strikers, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. It's not for ability. Sometimes you maybe just need your first couple of games to go well and hit the ground running, a bit like Bruno Fernandes. He's been fantastic, of course he has, but he came in, the things he's trying have come off in the first couple of games. That gives you confidence to do it more. Who knows, he might have struggled for confidence and we might not have seen the same player. Sometimes it's as small a detail as that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had Andy Cole on, and he said that Varane, from a cultural point of view, from a personality-wise, he got involved with the squad. He wasn't sort of like a shrinking violet, so it obviously wasn't for personal reasons either.
Can I just come in? Andy Cole, what a guy Andy Cole is. I love Andy Cole. He was, what a player. I mean, I could just go on. I nearly wore my Retro United top. I've got actually the one Andy Cole signed. I got it, not with number 9, with number 17 when he first signed. But I couldn't wear it because Joe's wearing his and I didn't want to steal his limelight. But listen, Andy Cole was a great guy. Andy Cole was a great guy to all us young lads. He always took time to us. He always spoke to us. I know that sounds really small. And I remember he gave me a pair of Visio jeans as well. Listen, I was absolutely buzzing. These were about 200 quid pair of jeans. And he had a box full of them. And I was only in the youth team. And I was just lucky enough to walk past him. And he asked me if I wanted a pair of Visio jeans. Now, I was just like, I wore these all the time. Anytime I went out, I had my white paint on the back side of Visio jeans. No, I wish I still had them, to be honest. They were absolute classics. Listen, I just thought I'd say that because Andy Cole is one of the best strikers in Premier League history. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. I know he's had a tough time as well, what he's been through. And every time I see him, he's just a top-class, great guy who I've got a lot of time for and helped me a lot in my career.
No, it's nice to hear those sort of anecdotes about Andy Cole, particularly for our fans. Is a very sort of distant memory now for a lot of younger fans, and I think people do tend to forget what a deadly striker he was. We'll come back to that sort of squad. I've got 4 or 5 questions lined up in my head. I'm sure Tomlinson has as well, but let's get a couple in from the fans first. Sam, what are the general comments sort of about regarding the game, and what are people wanting to ask Darren now?
They're saying Bruno Fernandes is going to equalise. They're saying they want Pogba to come on. Kane has not been in the game, which I think is true. But the next question comes from Wesley442, and obviously he was touching on the younger players earlier. He says, what was Paul Pogba like when he was a youngster at Manchester United?
Well, we all seen the ability that he was going to go on and be one of the best midfielders in the world one day. That was there for everyone to be seen. He's a great guy. Listen, all these things are still true. Paul Pogba's one of the most popular players in that dressing room. All the players look up to him and like him. And Paul's fantastic. Every time I see him, get on well with him. He's a great guy. He's a likeable guy. He was always dancing, singing. He always enjoyed his football. He was hard working. He was dedicated. He was a fantastic player. Again, we had just an unbelievable midfield at the time, and we're challenging for Premier Leagues and Champions League, and we had 5 or 6 players in the first team squad, and Paul was still young, and at that stage, Paul wasn't disciplined enough to come in and play central midfield. He still needed a little bit of time to improve his off-the-ball stuff and things like that. We're talking a time where we played 4-4-2, so the 2 midfielders had a lot of work to do. You'd have Nani and Ronaldo on the wings or something like that, and 2 strikers. So central midfielder at those times was a completely different role in the Man United first team. But everyone recognised Paul's ability, and Sir Alex Ferguson knew that as well. Just things happen with contracts and different things like that, and he decided to move on to Juventus, and we had to pay a lot of money to get him back. But I can only speak highly of Paul Pogba, and that crop of young players was just a joy to watch and very difficult to play against. Jesse Lingard, Paul Pogba and Ravel Morrison, that was a midfield three, and it was spicy when the reserves came up and played against the first team because they were good players.
I can imagine.
I mean, you were a reserve team player. Oh, go on, Sam. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, just in terms of the formation you was just saying now, that literally the next question leads on from that. If you were in Ole's position and you had all the midfielders fit, what would your midfield three be?
That's a good shout. I think you've got great options and flexibility. Now, I think it's game on game. Again, I go back to my time with Sir Alex Ferguson. We played different variations all the time. Players could adapt and do different things. And sometimes it was horses for courses in terms of who we were playing. Was it Europe? Was it at home? Do we need two? Do we need three? Who complements each other better against the opposition's midfield? And United are in that position now where they could play a number of them. They could easily play a diamond as well with two forwards. You could have Marcus and Anthony up front, and you could have a diamond in midfield with Fernandes at the tip of it. You could have McTominay and Pogba either side with a holding midfielder. So the options are there for United just now. They can play in a 2, 3 and a diamond 4.
Right, let's use this break in play then to get another prize piece from our sponsors, Sky Bet. Well done, James, got his retribution there for what probably should have been a foul in the first place. Manchester United to win 2-1. Very optimistic from the gallery. 8-1 now. Odds accurate at the time of recording and are subject to change. You have to be 18 plus to play along. Ooh. Joe, is that a foul from Eric Dyer in the first place there? I can see you shaking your head.
100%.
Yeah.
Man United are struggling at the moment. We're really struggling to find a little bit of rhythm. Tottenham, since the water break, really have come out. I think United, up until the water break, probably the better team. Tottenham now very much on top. Look quite controlled, look quite calm. Jose's sit deep tactics and look to hit on the break are perfect for this situation, obviously. And United's midfield, maybe a little bit of a lack of quality right now, in my opinion. Just somebody just to put the foot on the ball, get the game by the scruff of the neck, that old analogy, and just go, right, okay, let's all just calm down. It's only one goal. Let's put the foot on the ball and we go again. There's a chance for Tottenham.
Bangers.
Well done, Freddie. Yeah, so I think second half you might well see Paul Pogba come out if it stays like this, just because I think a little bit of lack of control. And I've not seen Anthony Martial touch the ball first 42 minutes. He's been a bit of a passenger in the game so far. And sometimes, people criticise him for being a bit hit and miss in games, and this is obviously one of those games where he's struggling to find an impact. And Ollie's got players on the bench. He's got your Mason Greenwood, who's bigged up, and he's got Odion Ighalo, a bit more physicality up there. So he needs to turn up a little bit, in my opinion, second half, because it's been a bit quiet. Anthony Martial first 45 minutes.
Yeah. On the subject of competition for places then, Darren, obviously something that you had to deal with regularly when you were breaking into the United side. And I was reading your bio earlier, and I just wanted to ask you about, obviously 2006-07, you're sort of competing with Scholes, Giggs, Ronaldo and Carrick for a starting berth, and then United bring in Owen Hargreaves the next summer. What's your mentality when a transfer like that is made and you're already struggling to get a significant amount of minutes in the league?
My mentality doesn't change because Owen Hargreaves is a fantastic player. But again, as I said to you, when I first came into the team, there's Juan Sebastian Veron, Nicky Butt, there's Roy Keane, there's Paul Scholes. You've got to back yourself. And I remember that season, I had 2 knee injuries and didn't feature as much as I would have liked. And that's the challenge of being a Manchester United player. You've got to rise to the challenge. It was Roy Keane that said it to me. He said, you can't expect the manager not to bring in players. It's to push you, it's to challenge you, like Veron coming in. That takes Roy Keane and Paul Scholes. They think to themselves, okay, our places aren't safe there, and they've got to raise their game to the next level. That's the challenge that's there for you. For me, it didn't bother me one bit who the manager signed. I had confidence in myself and what I could do. I felt like at that stage I was starting to show what I was about. I was starting to get a little bit of a physical presence. Gym work was starting to pay off. I was starting to mature as a player. And for me, it's just about getting opportunity then and taking it. If I don't, I've got to hold my hands up. Other players are in form. I've got to wait. But again, I'm going to be ready for when that opportunity comes, and I'm going to grasp it with both hands. So again, it's about being part of a big squad and recognising that you've got the trust of the manager and the players and taking the opportunity when it comes. If it doesn't come, you might have to wait a long time for another opportunity, and that's the game.
You alluded to it earlier in terms of signings, but do you think United are lacking that a little bit at the minute? Just that depth across the board?
In some areas, competition for places is important. You've got to be competing every day and pushing yourself. Sometimes if you know you're going to play, you can be a little bit complacent. It depends what you're like as an individual, but there's nothing better than having a squad and competition for places. And sometimes you're the that's fine. But in this moment, Joe said it there, you look at the United bench, not going to well. We've got a number of players who can come on and change a game and make an impact and might find themselves in the team for the next week's game and going forward. That's football.
Yeah, they certainly do. Paul Pogba definitely has a role to play in this game. Bergwijn getting in down the right again. Aurier, getting in down the right again there. But the game is winding down. Let's wind it down with some questions then, Sam.
Cool. So this one comes in. I'm not going to say this. It's McAlien. Yeah. I don't know if that's a surname or if he just put it. But about Billy Gilmore. Obviously, great baller. Great baller.
I lost you there. You'll have to repeat that. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't hear you either, mate. Go on, say it again.
Oh, really? It says, as a Scotsman, are you excited by the prospect of Billy Gilmore?
Yeah, of course. Listen, fantastic, his performances. He's only had a few performances from Chelsea, but they seem to be standout man of the match for performances, so people hype him up fantastically. Listen, to see a young Scottish lad playing like that in the middle of the park for Chelsea with his technical ability, it's great to see for Scottish football. We've got an abundance of central midfielders just now. It's like this crazy thing in the Scottish national team. We've got so many central midfielders. We could do with spreading the quality around the squad a little bit more. But listen, I've known him from a young age. I watched him play for Scottish youth teams. He's a fantastic talent. When I seen him, he was a number 10. I love his evolution at Chelsea, playing a little bit deeper, getting on the ball and things like that. So I know they think highly of him at Chelsea, and he took a brave decision as well, because he probably could have been playing for Rangers' first team a lot earlier, but he took a brave decision of going to Chelsea as a young lad because he wants to play in the Premier League at one of the top clubs. And, he's got undoubted talent and ability, but for me, it's just about calming the hype and letting him evolve and let him develop as a player.
Do you think that's a problem nowadays? Do you think that's a problem nowadays, having youngsters having a few games and then they're getting hyped like they're the next world's best thing?
I do. It's only natural. I think it's been heightened by social media and things like that, which is great for the game, but also has that effect as well. For me, it's more for the player's point of view. Of course, it gives you a confidence boost when you see people talking about you in that light, and it's great the fact that you can go on social media. But at the same time, it's not to get carried away with it and still recognise that you've still got to improve. You're still a long way away, and the step up from playing a couple of games to playing week in, week out in the Premier League, that's the next challenge altogether. So it's just about keeping that drive and desire to get better and not to get complacent. And at the same time, when the bad performances come, don't go on social media and then have a complete crisis in confidence off the back of it as well. And it's not even a bad performance sometimes. It can just be an average performance on social media gets blown up to be you're the worst player in the world. And I do think this is a big problem that players have nowadays, the swings in confidence off the back of things like that. Because no doubt that they look at it, you've got to try and keep a level keel. Confidence is important, but at the same time, not letting negative comments affect you too much. But that's where the management and educating these players on that, because it's a part of the game now. It's easy to say to players, forget social media, because it's part of the world, it's part of the game, it's something they've been brought up all their lives. They're not going to ignore it. It's just about educating them how to deal with it.
I see you, Sam, making up Chelsea handles so you talk about your beloved Blues. That's all right. You keep sneaking it into the conversation, but just know that I'm onto you, all right? If we're going to go through all the Chelsea Academy graduates.
And just to confirm, listen, I'm a massive Billy Gilmour fan. It's just I want to see him grow and evolve, and I just want to see him take his time to develop into the player he wants to become, which is going to happen, and it's exciting. And as a Scotsman as well, it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's a good job he's not a left back, because Scotland are well stocked for them too. Yeah. Joe, a couple of big sighs from you there, mate.
Yeah, just a bit of poor quality towards the end of the half. I think, to be honest with you, I think the quality has been lacking from both sides first 45 minutes. I don't think there's been an awful lot of good football on display. Tottenham obviously 1-0 up thanks to a bit of individual brilliance from Bergwijn. But other than that, the quality's been pretty average, in my opinion. I think you'll probably see substitutions fairly early second half. I just read then on Twitter that Anthony Martial's had 8 touches of the ball first 45 minutes, which isn't really good enough.
Oh, wow.
So I think you could see a change for Anthony Martial, or Ollie might just decide to see if Paul Pogba can give him a few more touches, because we know how deadly he is in front of goal. But I'd be very surprised if United came out second half with the exact same team. I think it's been pretty flat, to be totally honest. Other than those Marcus Rashford kind of snap chances, I think it's been very flat. So Paul Pogba on second half, maybe sacrificing either Dan James or one of McTominay and Fred.
Yeah, United a little bit lacklustre in that first half, but I'll tell you what's not been lacklustre: Marcus Rashford's efforts off the pitch. Like we said at the start of the show, potential future Prime Minister, and he's been speaking to Patrick Davidson from Sky about the huge reversal in the decision on school meals.
As we speak, it's Tuesday afternoon, and we've literally just learned, and you've learned in the last hour or two, that you've done it. The free school meals voucher scheme is going to be extended through the summer. Can you believe what you've been able to achieve?
No, it's a bit crazy to think that we managed to do it, but I'm just thankful for all the people that helped to raise awareness to it, really, because that's what it's about. Obviously today's a good day, and I'm just happy that we can affect people's lives for the better.
How will you affect people's lives for the better? What difference will this make? Yeah,
just for example, like, these kids should be focusing on their education and what they're going to do in the future, whether they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, whatever age they are, they all have dreams what they want to become when they get older. It might not seem like a big thing, but something like not eating every day, or not eating the right amount of meals every day, it can have an impact on your life. And I understand that everyone's situations are different, but we can always come together like what we've shown and try and make everyone's situation a little bit better and a little bit easier.
You've obviously been famous for a little while now as a Manchester United striker, but I just wonder what particularly the last week's been like when, I don't know, like the Mayor of London's talking about you, the Mayor of Manchester, political leaders. Can you believe quite the influence you've been able to have?
It's not possible doing it just on your own, and that's one thing I've realised. I think I mentioned it about a week ago about people understanding that they have a voice, and the way that they channel it and use it is important. I think sometimes we just go the wrong way about it, and I've done it myself. Especially with charity work, you've got good intentions, but sometimes you do it and you go about it the wrong way, and it doesn't quite have the impact that you thought it would. But this time, I feel like everyone's said how they feel, and that's been the main point of the turnaround.
I noticed in your open letter to MPs, you talked about being a black man from a poor community. Has it made you think a little bit more about being a black role model and the biases people still seem to face?
A little bit, yeah, but I think my view on it is it's a generational thing, and generations change. People improve as humans should, and I feel like now this generation that we're in, we're not afraid to sort of stand up and be counted for, and people are are willing to sort of make that first step towards being heard. And I think the first sort of important factor that I seen in that was Raheem when he went through his situation, being racially abused, and how he stood up to that. And I think that was a turning point for a lot of people. And sometimes it takes that person to do something like what Raheem done. I've always said that football is a massive voice. Everyone, it's like one language. Everyone gets involved with it. Everyone loves the game, and it's a good way to spread sort of positive messages.
Thanks very much for your time. Well done again on what you've achieved for people, and we look forward to seeing you out there on Friday night.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to hear from Marcus Rashford there. Darren, how good is it to see someone with his platform, to see a young footballer in the spotlight tackle and be genuinely invested in issues such as that?
No, it's amazing. What he's done's been just nothing sort of inspirational. I think you touched upon it there, that the next generation, the players today, are more willing to get involved in things like this. And I think, to be fair to the previous generations, they were almost told to concentrate on your football and try not to get involved in things like that. But I think as individuals have grown, we see more players, not just on these subjects, but other things like getting involved in other things outside of football, growing themselves as people, whether it be, fashion brands or interests outside of football, and really embracing them. I think before, people were just like, forget about that, distract you from your football, and then they'd come to the end of their career, like, now what? I think the next generation of players are understanding that you've got a life to live as well. Being a football and being dedicated is important, but tackling issues, being a voice, not being afraid, and recognising that it's not going to affect your football. Being not controversial, but standing up for issues that you believe in is not going to affect your football. And if you're picked and if you're selected, or how fans are going to treat you, people are actually going to the opposite way and respect you so much and hold you in high esteem. And Marcus, what he's done has been fantastic. I think everyone's recognition of it now is that footballers have a powerful platform to be inspirations to people. We talk about in football, but they can be inspirations in so many other ways, and leaders and role models in society. It just shows you the power of football, and I think it's fantastic. He alluded to Raheem Sterling almost kick-started it when he stood up, and I remember saying at the time, this is going to be a pivotal moment, and it's fantastic to see these young men showing that they're more than football, showing them that they're mature leaders that want to inspire the next generation and educate the generations we're in just now as well, and previous generations.
Yeah, very well said. I think it's great that the opinion that footballers should stick to football is quickly become prehistoric almost. And it's great to see them using their platforms and their voice accordingly. I want to give you boys the opportunity to chime in as well. Joe, Sam, what have you thought of Marcus Rashford? Not just as a footballer over the course of this season, but as a man off the pitch as well.
Yeah, he's a role model, isn't he? I think he's a huge role model. I was watching an interview with Gareth Southgate earlier today, actually, where he was talking about Jadon Sancho's development at Borussia Dortmund, and he was saying, look, Jadon Sancho should be looking up to players like Marcus Rashford, and you forget how old Marcus Rashford is at 22. At 22, I could barely even string a sentence together. He is he's a role model for footballers, for young black men, for people all around the country, in my opinion. And, I really hope it's going to kickstart more players in the future that want to get involved in causes off the field and can use their platforms to help.
Sam, did you have anything to add, buddy? Obviously, a lot has been said there.
Yeah, I touched on it on the stream the other day, but literally just reiterating what Darren and Joe said. Like, I think it's given a bit more purpose to footballers, and it's made a lot of people realize that there is more to them than just being footballers. Like, you can do so much more in your communities. You can do so much more with the world. And he's literally proven that with what he's done. Like, there's so many kids that are gonna look at him like a role model just because he set up the initiative put himself out there, and so much change has happened. And I think because of that, so many more things are going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I think it was great the way that it was completely unfair when Matt Hancock, in my opinion anyway, said that footballers should be doing more to support the NHS in the time of an international pandemic. And Marcus Rashford only went and did it, didn't he? And he put the ball straight back in the government's court. And look what can be brought about with that proactive attitude. So, like you boys said, what a guy, what an example to young football fans and aspiring footballers everywhere. There's no great way to move on from that, because everything we say now, kind of ranks beneath that in terms of importance. I am hearing from the gallery, though, that Roy Keane has called David De Gea one of the most overrated goalkeepers in the Premier League. Joe? Right, smile.
I was watching. I think we can all see the studio, can't we? Yeah. I was watching Roy Keane, and he was absolutely kicking off in the studio. I could see veins popping. I could see jaws swinging. I could tell he was an angry, angry man. To call him one of the most overrated goalkeepers in the Premier League, I think, is a travesty, quite frankly, because he's clearly not. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world and has been for a number of years. And yes, he's made a few mistakes, but I think everybody has in the goalkeeping department at some stage and has been written off, and then suddenly they're back in the form books. I also noticed, I believe I saw Paul Pogba warming up fairly intensely there at half-time in the centre circle. So fingers crossed we're going to see Paul Pogba come out second half, because United need it.
But Joe, do you honestly think that...
Pogba fit? Oh, sorry, Sam. Go on, mate.
Sorry, I was going to say to Joe and Darren, do you genuinely think that De Gea is still at that level that we're so used to? Because obviously before the pandemic happened, he was known to make so many errors, and now we're back.
The issue is for me that he's sort of held in the same way, players hold Messi and Ronaldo, and they 5 games without scoring a goal, it's suddenly an absolute disaster. David De Gea is held up against his previous years, where he was one of the greatest goalkeepers in Premier League history for 2 or 3 seasons, and was literally keeping Manchester United in the sort of top 6 hunt single-handedly by himself. So if you're going to put him up against some of the all-time great Premier League goalkeeping displays, then you might say he slipped off, but he's still a top-class goalkeeper, still doing it week in, week out. He's kept Manchester United in the game, really. It could be 2-0 if that Son header hits the back of the net. So I think people write him off a little bit quickly. He's still got plenty to offer, but he's probably not the goalkeeper that he was when he was making 14 saves against Arsenal to keep us in the game.
I'm going to double down on what Joe says. I think that if you have a career, how long have you been at United now? 8-9 years?
Yeah,
you're not just going to be better every year. You hope to be like that. You're going to have a season that's not as comparable to the rest. And I think Joe's right. I think because his level is ridiculously high, and he was arguably having to make a lot more saves a game as well. So, he was putting in these world-class performances. And now this season, maybe like tonight, he's had 3 saves and he's let 1 go in. I think that he's just having a season that's slightly lower than his usual standards. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden he's become a bad goalkeeper and he's not elite, he's not world class. Hopefully we look back on a 12, 13-year career and he comes again and you look back and say, that season maybe wasn't his best season, but he came again. And I fully expect that to be the case.
Yeah, unless we forget that people had written off Manuel Neuer before this season as well, a World Cup winning goalkeeper, and he's having an unbelievable season and is the senior of David De Gea, isn't he? So let's settle on there's lots to come from David De Gea. Right, the teams are back out on the pitch. We've tackled the David De Gea issue. Have we got any outstanding questions before the game kicks off, Sam, that we need to get through?
Yes, I've got a question from the Mighty King, and it is for Joe and Darren. This
finally!
Will the format change in the Europa League impact Manchester United's chance in winning the tournament?
it's an incredibly hard question to answer off the back, isn't it? What a question to throw my way. Just because I can't predict the future. But United are definitely one of the favourites to win the Europa League. They were walking through that game against LASK behind closed doors. It was an absolute breeze, 5-0 it finished in the end, obviously away from home. And that'll be a very, very comfortable second leg as well against them. I don't think there's many teams to stop Manchester United. I think maybe Wolves and Inter Milan I look at as potential rivals in that
Sevilla.
competition. I think Manchester United are comfortably better than both of those sides, personally. But having said that, it's a tournament that's going to happen in very, very short space of time. So really, it might come down to who's got the better, deeper squad, just because if you pick up 2 or 3 injuries at the end of the season, then you've got to play 2 or 3 games every 3 days. That is brilliant by Rashford, by the way. It's going to come down to squad depth. So it's hard to say. I think it really will come down to injuries and squad depth, in my opinion.
For
Yeah,
me,
I mean, after
do you want me to
what
answer it,
happened-
Darren?
Oh, go on. Darren, you chime in, mate. Go on.
I'll just come in quickly. I think I always fancy United on European nights at home. So no matter what the result is, I always fancy us to beat anybody at home on a European night. So not having the 2-legged affair will make it a little bit different, especially in the Europa League where we're better than most teams. But at the same time, as Joe said, on a neutral venue, I'd fancy ourselves against most teams, and you can't really complain. It's a neutral venue and you back yourself to be the better team and go on and win it. You just got to deal with what's in front of you, and that's what it is for United. It looks like United have come out really aggressive and sharp here and really up to tempo. I think Ollie's got right into them. They just look like they're moving sharper, passing it sharper.
Good ball.
Yeah. Given how calamitous... Hello. Right, we'll just wait till this is cleared. Given how calamitous Celtic were in the Europa League against Copenhagen, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So we're moving on from that one.
No.
Let's get a full frame price boost then, guys.
Sometimes, Darren, I don't know about you, but sometimes I really love Fred.
Bring
and
it
I
in
think
at any given moment.
He breaks the play up at times, but I do think sometimes his quality on the ball...
There we go. Sorry, Joseph, mate. That's my fault. Let me rattle through this first, then we'll come back to you for United.
Right.
Sorry. Obviously, the score is 1-0. Second half price boosts are detailed below. Both teams to score in the second half was 9-4, now 11-4. Dyer to be carded, which is... okay, let's just say that's always on the cards. 3-1, now 7-2. Rashford to score the second goal, 4-1. Now 5-1. Son to score 5-1 or 6-1. We've got plenty here for you. Martial to score was 11-4, now 10-3. Odds accurate at the time of recording and subject to change. You have to be 18 plus to play along. Please bet responsibly. Sorry, Joe, I cut your conversation short there, mate, and we had a fair amount to rattle through. Please.
Sorry, yeah.
Come back in.
I was just talking really about Fred. Sometimes I feel like he does a really good job breaking play up, and the little intricate passes that maybe are side to side. But I do feel like sometimes he lacks that real killer quality of just splitting the lines of a midfield, and often it ends up being Harry Maguire that has to take responsibility with the ball. I don't know what your thoughts are, Darren, on Fred in that sort of area.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's an area he excels in. And I think games like this, it almost becomes a little bit noticeable. You've got him and Scott in there who are industrious midfielders. And I think, once especially you're 1-0 down, you start to look at your midfielders to be like, come on, break those lines quicker, get the ball into the front men, take more risk in your passes. And that was just something we were always brought up on at United. Sir Alex Ferguson spoke constantly about penetration and breaking lines and running forward and getting the ball into the strikers and making teams defend and forcing the issue a little bit. And you'd hopefully like to see him do that a little bit more. I don't think it's necessarily a strength in his game, and we can see Pogba warming up, and I think it's inevitable that we're going to see him come on, and hopefully the script's written for him to change the whole game for Manchester United on his comeback.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think that sometimes in the modern game, obviously the fullback is so important. And often Manchester United's fullbacks, they're really good defensively, but they maybe don't have the impact some of the other top level fullbacks are having in those advanced wide areas. And because you don't have those really attacking fullbacks that are whipping dangerous balls across the box, there's extra reliance on your central midfielders to play really delicate balls in between the lines. And it's definitely something Wan-Bissaka, you can tell he's working on. He's improving at it every game, and he's definitely got better since arriving at Palace. And it's definitely something that I think Brandon Williams probably does better than Luke Shaw at times at left back. And I think in this sort of game, it's quite evident our fullbacks' attacking presence isn't really at that level just yet, but it's definitely going to improve over the coming season.
I think you're spot on. I definitely noticed an improvement. I think I've seen some stats on Wan-Bissaka's crosses and chances created and expected assists and things like that. Just before the lockdown compared to the beginning of the season. So you can definitely see an improvement in that side of his game, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come, and United will want a lot more to come, especially if you want to play with your wingers inside a little bit, like Dan James and Marcus Rashford do. It allows that space for your fullbacks to go forward. You know, we see Liverpool and City do it different ways. City keep their wingers high and wide, and then they have the two number 10s, David Silva and De Bruyne, and then Liverpool do it with Salah and Mane inside, and then their fullbacks bombing on. United don't have that just yet. I think that's what you're alluding to, that's the next stage in all his evolution of the team.
Definitely.
We have to create a threat in that area.
Darren, first guest to mention expected assists. We absolutely love that on Football Daily. Expected goals, expected assists. They get you out some holes, they do.
No, listen. People will laugh at it. People will laugh at it. It'll be common terms used by everybody in
for
5 years' time. It's a fantastic system. Football will never be calculated. It's impossible, but it's getting better all the time, and I think it's a fantastic tool as a guide, and I love it, and I really look into it a lot.
Well, if you love it, subscribe to Football Daily then, Darren, because that is the language we speak most of the time, unless we're on these shows, and then we just like to yell down the lens. Sam, what have we got in the comments, mate?
This one is for solely Darren again, and it's from Tractor Trev. He says, the championship is returning tomorrow. Are you confident West Brom will secure promotion, and how will they fare in the Premier League if they do?
I'm really confident that they'll do it. I think they've got a fantastic manager and staff, chief executive, everything at the club's set up. They've got a great team. They've played great football this season, and they jumped from the Championship to the Premier League's big. And I think you've seen two extreme examples of it. You've seen Norwich, who passed the ball around and dominated the Championship and struggled, and you've seen Sheffield United come up and been a breath of fresh air. The biggest thing I like about both teams is, especially Sheffield United, they've not tried to change the whole team. They've almost let that team grow together, and you add one or two players. So I'd like to see West Brom do that. I think they'll do it, and I'd love to see them have a couple of additions to help the squad, but not necessarily have wholesale changes, because there's a lot of quality there and a lot of quality that can compete in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of quality, Manchester United definitely look a little bit more. I mean, despite Joe's fact he's got his head in his hand, a little bit more on the field. Energetic. Yeah.
The game's crying out for Agallo as well for me. Agallo as well. With Spurs defending,
yeah, you need someone to hold it up.
Hold it up, get crosses into the box with a physical presence who can win headers, and I think you're going to see that the longer the game goes on. Pogba and Agallo definitely could impact this game and swing it United's favour.
Who comes off for you, Darren?
And it's not because of performance, it could be a number of players really, but you would take off one of Scott and Fred, and potentially Dan James as well, maybe. Or you could go to the back five, but I can't see him doing that and give the width from the full-backs. But I think you'll definitely see one of McTominay or Fred and potentially Dan James. But that's nothing to do with performance. It's just to change it up a little bit and bring something.
Bruno, he's got that in the locker though. That was a strike.
Okay, well, I've made a mental note of those substitutions. Let's see if Ollie's thinking in the same vein as Darren Fletcher. Joe, Bruno Fernandes close there?
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's brave.
Lloris has got no chance.
Hugo Lloris, he's brave.
Oh, he is
wow.
absolutely stranded.
Yeah,
Lloris has got no
I
chance
also-
there. He styled that out fantastically. Let me tell you, he had a complete panic up when seeing how close that was to the post.
Lest I remind
Yeah, I
you guys that that is actually one of our price boosts. Bruno Fernandes to score outside the box, and he's trying his best to pull it off for us, isn't he? Right, let's have a couple more comments, and then we'll grill Darren with some Fletchers. Darren with some Fletchers? Darren with some questions of our own.
For goodness sake.
This one comes in from Vikram, and he says, "Do you see shades of McTominay in yourself, or the other way around?" Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. No, obviously, listen, Scottish, tall central midfielders, blonde hair, come into the team, maybe a little bit of scrutiny and people asking whether we were good enough and challenging us and rising to the challenge a little bit. I don't have a cool nickname though, like McSauce. Do you know what I mean? I'm disappointed with the United fans out there. You know what I mean? Where's my cool nickname? Nah, listen, I'm a big Scott McTominay fan. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's going to keep evolving as well. I actually think that he's got goals in him. I see his size, he's 6'3". I think he could get into the box and really get headers and third man runs and become a goal scoring box to box midfielder. I don't see him as a holding midfielder. I really see him as a number 8 box to box energy. And his shooting's improved from outside the box as well. So he's just a great player and a great lad, and somebody who's willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good of the team to allow them to excel. So he's got a big future in the game and great mentality. Listen, couldn't speak highly enough of him. I think he's a great lad.
Oh, Martial needs
Joe,
to be Martial needs to be pulled up.
Okay. Right. I mean, that is pretty much what I was going to ask you. His patience has run out.
I've seen
Joe's
enough,
patience
mate.
has run out with Martial.
I've seen enough. I've seen enough of Martial today. I love him as a forward, but it's not his day. He needs to be hooked. That's a great ball by Fred. Go on then, Bruno. Pick the ball. It's just the quality is just poor, isn't it? Poor quality.
It's a bad pass. He's gave Dan James no chance there.
I think personally, I'll be looking here at Pogba and Ighalo, like Darren said, but don't discount Mason Greenwood in these situations. This is the sort of game Mason Greenwood can really come on and make a difference. That little bit of quality in and around the edge of the area, and you might well see a double change going forward of Martial and Dan James coming off for Ighalo and Greenwood. I just think that those two have been particularly poor for Man United in the forward areas.
I'm going to jump in with Joe there. I'm going to say 3 subs. I'm going to say Fred, Dan James and Martial, and on comes Pogba, Greenwood and Ighalo. 3 changes. Change the whole flow of the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then I think potentially even if there's struggles going on after that, I'm presuming he's on the bench. I haven't looked at the bench actually, but I'd have a look at Brandon Williams coming on for Luke Shaw as well. I just think that he offers a little bit more going forward than Luke Shaw does.
Here, though.
Great challenge by Luke Shaw. Great,
Spurs have a few players come on as well, to be fair.
Joe, you've been saying throughout the season that Luke Shaw has actually looked better as a sort of left centre half at times.
Definitely.
And that tackle was definitely in that vein. Has he dug you out of a hole there?
Just enough awareness. I think the old Luke Shaw probably lets Lamela sneak in front of him there. And I actually do think he potentially has a future as that left centre-back. I think he's better in more narrow areas. When he goes wide, sometimes I think Luke Shaw looks a little bit lost of ideas, bereft of ideas in the final third. He's better when he's picking passes through the middle. So I actually do think he's better in a back three.
That is in a back three to establish,
Yeah, fair.
It's just good versatility to have if you're Ollie. It's just good versatility to have if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, being able to drop into that back three without having to make a substitution because you've got Luke Shaw playing in there. We can see Pogba is stripping off and coming on.
Ooh, Pogba time.
About time.
Let's go.
Here comes the main man.
Darren, I'd just like to say some of my friends say that I kind of play like Pogba. Obviously, I had a knee injury when I was younger, so Yeah.
You joke.
So you're like, you were a top baller then, yeah? Top baller, yeah?
Do you mean one of Pogba's brothers?
Don't worry me. Come on, lads. Let's not do that.
Hey,
We've got a legend in front of us.
Scotland.
I think I saw
Right.
Greenwood coming on as well, by the way. I think I saw Paul Pogba and Mason Greenwood about to come on there. So Greenwood hopefully is going to have a bit of an impact here.
Sam, do you not play five-a-sides or anything now?
Yeah, obviously I'm quite injury prone now, to be fair.
That's an understatement.
I've started yoga and it's helping a lot. Right. So maybe you see me. I'll send you my highlights.
Yeah. If I come,
how have we got to this? How have we got to you telling?
We need to get a tournament going. Get Darren Fletcher in the middle.
Yeah, I was going to say, get me down. I'll play definitely. Get me involved.
Love that. No, we got to get that sorted out.
We're going to hold you to that.
Yeah, we could definitely use it.
I must admit, I have been playing a little bit up here with a few ex-pros and things like that, and let me tell you, it gets a little bit feisty and competitive. It's good.
Darren, who do you play with that's still got it?
And Luke.
And who's still got it? Oh, me, obviously. Like, I'm the best player by far.
Come on.
No, to be honest, do you know who's... we play a few of the City lads. Stephen Ireland is very good, especially in five-a-sides. He's a very, very good
technically
player.
He was great, wasn't he?
Great, fantastic player. Injuries, and I think he's a little bit younger than me as well. He could easily still be playing, but even in five-a-sides, you get, not saying he was a five-a-side player, but you get some players who are just like next level at five-a-sides, and it just suits them, and he's definitely one of them. He's very good.
Yeah, to be fair, I know a few of them as well, Sam. They look absolutely world class at five-a-side level, then go missing.
Yeah, I know a few as well, Sam. I can't think of any names. I don't name names on stream, but I can definitely think of a few of those players.
I cannot believe you guys are doing me like this. After all I've done for FC.
To be fair, I played central midfield with Sam, and he had to do all my running because my legs are like the size of milk bottles. He had to carry me off the pitch against Arsenal fan TV, so I do appreciate that, Sam. Right, let's have a few
can I just interrupt?
Being made. Oh, go on.
I would love to play against them, Arsenal fan team. Get me involved in it.
Yeah, see, we need to get that rematch.
Because listen, I used to. I'm not going to lie. I used to do bits against Arsenal, so I've got a list of that Arsenal fan TV ones as well. So a few of them are on my hit list. So I need to deal with a few of them.
I love that Darren Fletcher has a hit list, which Arsenal fan TV feature on. I think we should just turn up without telling them. Just turn up with a Darren Fletcher without telling them.
I've already gave them so many nightmares in their lifetime. I can't do it to them again.
Go on, Rashi.
Oh, Rashford's through.
By the way, Pogba came on for
substitution
chance.
Oh.
Go on, Bruno. Oh, shoot.
Yes, the substitutions have been made. Joe, can you confirm who came off for me, please? Because I was too busy thinking about Darren Fletcher's hit list.
It was as expected. It was Fred off for Paul, and it was Dan James off for Mason Greenwood. So
there we go.
What a challenge!
Go on, Pogba.
So you can expect to see, I think, Igalo on for Martial if the game progresses and there's not much movement. But look at the difference Pogba makes immediately. Wins the ball back, creating chances. What a player.
Yeah, and just in case anyone's forgot, obviously 5 substitutions can be made, can't they? That has been implemented now. So we might see some more changes even after Igalo. Half an hour for Paul Pogba to stamp his authority on this game. Guys at home, do you think he can do it? Let us know in the comments below. Keep your questions coming to Sam. Subscribe to Football Daily. Subscribe to Soccer AM if you're new to the channel. Darren Fletcher's here every week, by the way. So, stick around.
And he's joining FDFC.
Yeah, and he's our latest recruit. Can you get on the blower to John O'Shea?
Oh, yeah.
That was
Got to do better, Martial.
That was a serious ball by Bruno. I didn't expect that. At all. What a turn.
Oh, what a
Oh,
touch.
that is
what a pass.
that is exceptional from Bruno
Great
Fernandes.
challenge, though.
great.
We're underestimating the challenge
It's
from
great
Dyer, though.
defending. It's great defending from
Yeah.
Dyer, yeah.
Already
Good touch
him,
on it. It was a very good
Pogba
touch.
and Bruno in tandem. Is that a combination that you think is... I know it's a little bit of an awkward fit, getting Paul Pogba back into the side at the minute, but do you think getting those two working together is Ollie's next big objective, Darren?
Listen, I don't see it being a problem at all. I think that Pogba's got the capabilities of playing as a 8 and a 10. You could go with one holding midfielder and like a, one sitting, like a single pivot with two number 10s. We've seen Pogba play for France in the World Cup, where he actually played a disciplined role beside Kante and allowed the rest of the team to go forward. And he did. I remember him in the semi-final. He matched every one of Fellaini's runs for Belgium. He did a disciplined job almost as a holding midfielder. And Pogba gives you the flexibility in game to go from a double pivot to a single pivot. He can dovetail instantly as the game goes on as well. He's got that flexibility, and I don't think it's a big problem at all, really. As long as they do their work rate off the ball, I don't see it being a problem at all. And it'll be for certain games without a doubt, but I think you'll see tonight that great players can play together without a question.
11
Brilliant
white
stuff.
shirts behind the ball right now for Tottenham, by the way. 11 white shirts behind the ball
This
at
is
all
madness.
times for Jose Mourinho. I mean,
Who would have
this
thought?
is going to be defensive.
The bus has been...
Oh,
Yes! Oh, my God!
what the save!
How on earth has Hugo
What a
Lloris kept
save.
that out? Joe,
Wow.
take us through that build-up when we see the replay. Oh, my
Oh,
God.
brilliant by Luke Shaw. Fantastic
Wow.
by Luke Shaw. Tenacity to win the ball back, pick a pass out, finds the feet of Anthony Martial, and it's just brilliant by Hugo Lloris. At the moment, it is all Manchester United. United are fully on top. Tottenham can't get out. They've got 11 players behind the ball. And at the moment, you are seeing the definition of buses being parked.
Yeah.
Great pass. Look at that ball.
Here we go. Oh.
Right. We've all been sucked in by the game now. It's certainly more compelling at this point than it was at any point in the first half. So it looks like we've got a game on our hands now. The big hitters have entered the field. Sam, can you bring our attention back to the comments, please, sir?
Cool. So I've got a question from Tranquillo, and he says, who do you see out of the current crop at United ending up with legendary status at the club? It's a very interesting
Marcus Rashford.
Good luck,
No,
Darren.
Marcus
Good luck.
Rashford. No, I'm answering. Marcus Rashford. Listen, I think that he's Manchester lad. As I alluded to before, I think his potential's world class level. I think he could. I think obviously that comes with trophies and success, but I think we were seeing signs of it this season that Marcus Rashford's going to become one of the best players in the world one day. Listen, I'm not want to put any pressure on him. That's what I just feel his potential is. Once we lose the two freaks of nature, Messi and Ronaldo, the door's wide open in the next few years for people to step up to the plate and to rise to the challenge of Ballon d'Or level. And I think that he's got that potential in him. That's my honest opinion. And hopefully he can be the one to really lead United's charge to winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues again. Anthony Martial's first touch there with his right foot was fantastic. Great connection.
Yeah,
What a save.
What a save, man.
What about you, Joe? Who do you reckon? Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. I'd agree with Darren that Marcus definitely showing some special stuff. I think, I won't say legendary status, but I definitely think has an incredibly bright future at the club is Mason Greenwood. I think Mason Greenwood is one player to watch over the coming years. And, we talk about Manchester United having to go out and sign strikers. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick and the likes of Nicky Butt have a lot of faith in Mason Greenwood to step up and be a key component for this Manchester United side for years going forward. And he's obviously got an incredible record at youth team level. And I think he's already got 12 goals for the United first team this season, 5 in the Prem. And we're talking about a 16, 17-year-old kid. So he's a special talent. I think he could hit some really, really high heights for United.
I'm going to hijack the chat there because that segues nicely into our next price boost, Joe. So thank you for the assist, Squire. Let's have that up on screen for you now. Greenwood to score next was 9-2. is now 11-2. Merciful from the guys in the gallery. Only one price boost this time. Odds accurate at the time of recording and are subject to change. Of course, you have to be 18 plus to play along. Greenwood, the stage is set for the glory to be stolen by one of the substitutes. Giovanni Lo Celso, another big name entering the fray.
And Fernandes.
And Gelson Fernandes. Darren, did you expect more from these big money signings at Tottenham? I know that's quite an obvious statement, but Lo Celso in particular had a great pedigree.
Yeah, he did. I think it was a difficult season for Spurs, to be honest. There was a little bit of a transition. There was a lot of conflict with contracts with Eriksen and different players, and I felt like it wasn't the best start to the season for everyone, so it was difficult circumstances to come into. You know, him and Ndombele are really talented players, and I think that we're just seeing the transition of Spurs from a team that they had for a long time, over 4 or 5 years, where they didn't really have too many changes to their starting 11. And then when Dembele leaves and Eriksen, and there's contract issues all around, they've had to make some changes. But I definitely think they're talented players. Maybe not delivered what was expected of them, but they're still young enough and still adapting to the Premier League. Don't rule them out just yet, is probably what I'm saying, especially Ndombele, because he's definitely got a lot of talent that he could really, surprise everyone. And, I think he was linked with Barcelona. I mean, people might think comes to Tottenham and doesn't play well. I mean, get linked with Barcelona, but that speaks for the talent of what he showed in France.
Yeah, not just in France, in the Champions League as well. When you mentioned Christian Eriksen just then, I wanted to ask if you'd been in any similar situations at Manchester United where one of your, the key components of your side is sort of looking to move on and things aren't happening between him and the club. How does that affect the rest of the dressing room, if at all?
We weren't in a situation. There's always rumours of players leaving and things like that with contracts. United's never let theirs drag on too often. That was the biggest thing. Sir Alex nipped things in the bud very quickly. That Eriksen thing seemed to linger for a long time. I think it was off the back of him signing a contract for about 5 or 6 years when he first came, and then all of a sudden his money was relatively low to the level of player that he was. And Tottenham didn't really change his contract until the later stages, and he almost felt like you could have made the change a little bit earlier type thing for him. So he stuck to his guns and left the club. But that's the way Daniel Levy does business, and they've got this new they're going to bring financial difficulties to Tottenham, the fact that they can't fill it as well. So it didn't really happen at United. Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill, sorted these things very quickly. There's always contract situations. To be honest, as long as the player's shown the right attitude, nobody doesn't mind. I think it's as soon as you start seeing signs of contract issues and then players down in tools, that's when players in the dressing room would step up and question them. But that was something we never had a problem with in United. And if it did happen, it would have got sorted.
Darren, what was it like when obviously Cristiano was being linked with Real Madrid? Did you ever feel that sort of pressure was weighing on him and that he was keen to move? Did that ever show in training, or was he just consummate pro?
We always knew he was keen to move. We always knew he wanted the challenge of Real Madrid, and I think we kind of all let him go with our blessings because of how great he was for the club. I think that was everyone within the club, the fans, the manager. We all would have loved him to stay. Of course he would. I think we managed to get him to stay for an extra season, and he was unbelievable. Won his league and got to his Champions League final again. Ronaldo's performances never wavered, and that's the thing. He's a perfect example of it. He was the hardest trainer every day. He was a winner. He did everything for the club right up until the last minute that he left, and that's all you can ask for as a player. Players respect players' wishes that want to leave, and we always felt like the foreign players always had that lure of Real Madrid and Real Madrid and Barcelona. The lifestyle more than anything, the weather and things like that was probably the biggest thing for Cristiano. He really got frustrated with the weather in Manchester. I think he liked the fact of getting a nice suntan in Madrid as well. No, but these things are factors. Let's be honest.
Yeah, was there any players that we wouldn't, necessarily think of that you were devastated when they left the club because you maybe thought they had more to offer, or you enjoyed playing with them, or they, kind of unfulfilled talent? You've already talked about Varane. Was there any others that maybe spring to mind?
Listen, lots of players that left you feel that way, you know, for a number of reasons. Some because they've been loyal servants and their time's up. You know, it's not weird. There's such a tight knit group. You know, even Carlos Tevez, who left and went to Man City. You know, fantastic player and didn't work out. So it happens all the time. I think the biggest thing is when you become as I said, we had a really tight group, and if it was players moving on for age or different reasons, it was always tough. But
were you annoyed when they put that board up, the Welcome to Manchester board? Were you having any of that in the dressing room? Did that ruffle some feathers?
Of course it does, and that's part of football. You've got to use these things to motivate you. Of course it does. That's the game. We're all competitive, and when you see people doing that, it gives you extra incentive. But we knew that Man City were coming. When you spend that much money and you've got that much power, you're going to improve every year. You're going to be a challenge. We knew that was going to be the case, but that's up to Manchester United to rise to that challenge now. You know, we've sort of let them get ahead of us a little bit, not in terms of level of club of history, but recent success has been fantastic. So now it's up to Manchester United to chase them almost and show that we are the big team. We are the big team in Manchester, but you know, let's get it back to being that way in the league. Let's get it back to being that way in the league table and not just size of club and stature.
Very true, Sam. I bet there's some questions lining up for.
Yeah, there's literally the next question. The next question is regarding that last point. What do you think it will take for Man U to get back to glory days? So I'm thinking they're talking about transfers or what players that you need, what positions you need filled.
Yeah, we spoke about it's amazing what the impact of one signing can have, like Bruno Fernandes. And, you know, pre-Bruno Fernandes, it was all doom and gloom. Fernandes comes in, lifts the spirits of everybody. A world-class player comes into the team and delivers, and your team improves. It's amazing what a couple of transfers can do. So, and all of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's transfers have been a success and have been very good. So you really have confidence in the manager when he brings these players in. It's a combination of two things, really. It's the thing.
I was going to say the transfer policy feels a bit more coherent now, Darren.
Yeah, definitely. They've been great. They've been fantastic transfers. To be honest, I've always felt like the managers got the players they wanted, and it's no different with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I've always felt like every Manchester United manager's been backed with money and got the players that they asked for and wanted. And no different to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. His transfers have been fantastic and have all hit the ground running. It's very rare that happens. I think Ole's signed 4 or 5 players. The law of averages say a couple don't work out. That's the way it is with transfers. But touch wood, Uniteds have all hit the ground running and made a big impact this season. And going back to the question before, you also have to be ready to capitalise when Liverpool and City do have a decline, which you hope will happen, whether that be from a manager leaving or the squad. United have to put themselves in a position where Liverpool and City don't reach the levels that they've reached the last few seasons, and we've got to be ready for when they do have a slight drop-off, and we can accelerate in the next couple of years and hopefully challenge and win the Premier League.
Come on, Odion.
Joe, your man's on the pitch.
Odion.
Your man's on the pitch, Joe.
Yeah, big Odion, here he comes. Absolutely love him. Look, you can start to see a few players here really struggling with fitness. I think it's been fairly apparent last sort of 15 minutes, the tempo of the game slowed right down. Players look absolutely shattered, and it's an interesting change that. Lindelof coming off and Matic going on. I don't know whether he's just going to slot into a centre-back role just to pass from the back, which would be a very, very interesting decision from Ole, and one we've not really seen before. But what you can see is that we've put Odion Ighalo up top. We're going to say, get the ball into him, I'd imagine, if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he can hold the ball up a lot better than Anthony Martial. He's got a little bit more guile about him. So let's see what happens next 12 minutes.
Yeah, more of a physical presence for sure. And
great
like
ball,
said,
great ball.
Gives the supply line a different option.
Great ball.
Dangerous cross there into the box. The game feels a little bit more open now. I think we might have a goal in the last 10. I feel like it, it could still go either way, but let's hold on to some hope, for some last-minute excitement.
Tottenham are getting deeper and deeper and deeper. They were in the edge of the box. They're now defending almost penalty spot, 6-yard box. So, they're looking tired as well. United have to really try and force the issue here, keep putting balls in the box, force mistakes. You wanted the goal to come from a bit of quality, but sometimes it comes from just getting bodies into an area and actually forcing mistakes in tired Tottenham players' legs just now, just for the fact of how deep they're playing, and that's why Matic has come on. Tottenham aren't even trying to attack; they're that deep. And you fancy Matic. Harry Kane's a good striker, but he's not lightning quick. You fancy Matic to do a mistake and bring the ball out and pass it like that.
I mean,
also, I think just from me as like a Man United fan, I think it's kind of, okay, we might not pick up 3 points here. We might come away with 0, but I actually have been fairly encouraged by some of the performances tonight.
That's nice. Let's get back.
Yes, man!
Come on, we needed that.
My guy.
It's great skill. It's great skill. It's a bit soft, but it's great skill.
Dancing. Eric Dyer.
Paul Nabil. Nice, Eric for a cone of chips.
Nailed on pen.
No, that's Eric.
Soft.
Poor challenge.
There we have it. Who's
Poor
taking
challenge?
it? Marcus?
Rashford. It's got to be Rashford, surely.
Rashford.
Oh no, Bruno will take it.
Bruno.
Yeah.
Top step jump.
So big development in the game, and if this goes in, we have a blockbuster last 10 minutes of this match. So stick with us. Get your questions in for Sam. Subscribe to both channels. All that good stuff. Sam, I'll come to you in just a minute. Then we'll come for a question after the penalty. In which case, Joe will be delirious, or he'll be smashing up his kitchen.
Oh, it's a penalty.
VAR. Good from you, John.
John Moss is giving Bruno Fernandes the green light. Come on then, Bruno.
Good from you, John Moss.
It's a square run up.
Come on, Bruno, get the ball back. Get the ball back, Bruno. Get the ball back.
Cool as you like.
Win this game.
Fernandes. 6
Quality
contributions since signing, Joe. Did you ever think that he would have this sort of impact?
I didn't really know enough about him to have an opinion on him, to be totally honest. What I will say is, just before that Paul Pogba piece of brilliance, I was kind of saying that, United might not come away with 3 points today, but I've actually been fairly pleased by the performance. I think for an immediate lockdown performance, we saw the state of that Arsenal performance on Wednesday. And we saw Norwich get rolled over really comfortably earlier. And teams are going to struggle to hit the ground running. United, I think, have done all right. Away at Tottenham.
What are you talking about the second half,
defensive Jose side.
Second half. Second
half. And the first 23 minutes, I thought we were really good as well.
It's been quite encouraging, Darren, that he made changes and United have been better after those changes. That will give Ollie, he'll get a bit of confidence from that himself, I'm guessing.
Well, that's the strength and depth of the squad now, and the game was crying out for it. Sam mentioned that, passing from midfield and that. You had Pogba, you had, Mason Greenwood gives you something different to Dan James. You put a Gallows presence in there. But ultimately, it's Pogba that's won the penalty with an unbelievable goal. And, he's changed the game. And Bruno Fernandes changing his penalty technique as well. Usually does that Jorginho hop and delay and lands and puts it in. This time he just stuttered his run up and blasted it in the bottom corner. And I like to see that as well, because that other penalty style frightens the life out of me, to be honest.
Imagine if he'd missed that penalty, what Roy Keane would have said in the studio. I think you'd have seen Roy Keane on the pitch.
By the sounds of it. It looks like he needs a haircut as well from lockdown as well. Can you pass that message on to him, Chris? Get some word into the studio.
Certainly can. I've got some brave soul in the studio to pass that on, yeah? Lovely job, play. Right, Sam. Now the drama's settled down. Now Joe's BPM has dropped. Let's get a few questions.
Okay, cool. The next question comes in from me. I just want to know this. Obviously, you've played with a couple of the world's best midfielders, but who is the best midfielder you played against?
The best midfielder I played against was Kaká. Pre his injury when he was at AC Milan, he was unplayable. Honestly. He was 6'2". He was strong. He had acceleration. He could dribble. He could pass. He could shoot. We got to the Champions League semi-final, and he was the difference between the two teams. We lost it. We went on to get back to the final the year after and win it, but at the semi-final the year before, we ran into AC Milan, and the difference in the two games was Kaká. He was named World Player of the Year that year, and to be honest, he was just unbelievable. And A great guy
He's
as
enjoyed.
well. And yeah,
Absolute joke
and
of a footballer.
his injury killed him. His knee injury, he lost.
Yeah, the injuries.
He lost that little bit of acceleration he used to have. He used to glide away from people. He's dribbling. He
was
lost
quicker
that. He's
with
still
the ball.
a fantastic player. Exactly. And he just
Darren,
didn't
what about
quite
Iniesta?
have that. Yeah, Iniesta was a joke as well. Iniesta was more the fact that you couldn't get near him. You know, we talk about dribbling. Iniesta dribbled to keep possession, and then he would dart away from me. We'd play one touch. He was just unbelievable. But personally, coming up against directly, Kaká just, especially in a Champions League semi-final, to be the difference between two teams, he just edges it for me. But I played
feel
against
like-
some world-class midfielders.
It's a brave statement, but do you feel like Iniesta was perhaps maybe easier to man mark? I mean, your role was to sometimes to cut off that supply line, right? And you did it very effectively on occasion. Remember Jose Mourinho saying about the Champions League final? Saying about the Champions League final that Iniesta and Xavi will be happy that Fletch isn't playing. Do you back yourself to do a job on one of them over Kaká?
I don't know about that. It's a big ask. Listen, listen, you back yourself though, because you've got to believe in yourself. But it'd be very, very difficult. There was more than me just missing the game. It was the flow of the team at that time. You know, it was a number of things. It wasn't necessarily just I'm going to stop Iniesta. It was just how the team was lined up at the time and how we were playing and the flow of the team. And me being missing to that had a little bit of an effect. I almost became a better player by not playing in that game, but that doesn't change it for me. I was still devastated that I missed the final and we lost the match. That happens in football sometimes. Sometimes you become a better player by not playing.
Wow.
It's the lads that have to go out there and play that sometimes, you know, perception's a wonderful thing in football sometimes.
I'm just trying to work out.
Yeah.
You think
Go on,
Scott
Joe.
McTominay's playing centre back here? Sorry, not to interrupt, but is
so.
Scott McTominay playing centre half? I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Has he gone for a back
Just
three?
before we have any more observations on the game, sorry lads, got to get this out of the way. One last prize boost from our sponsors, Sky Bet. Just before we get into any more, interesting anecdotal chat, let's have that on screen right now. Manchester United to win 2-1. That's what we want to see. A bit of drama. Was 5-1, now 6-1 odds accurate at the time of recording. Subject to change after the 18 plus to play along. So what were you saying, Darren? You would have won the Champions League and marked Iniesta out the game had you played. Is that what you were saying?
No, that's what Joe said. That wasn't me. That was Joe.
Tell you what, Lo Celso's looked quite good since he's come on. He's looked quite sprightly on the counter.
Yeah. It's just fresh legs, man. It really is just fresh legs, I think. I think so many players are getting so tired that if you're a substitute, you look world class because everybody's absolutely shattered.
This is dangerous position. This. Nice.
Yeah, this is very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Sam, this is about the range of your free kick against Arsenal Fan TV, isn't it?
The thing is, I knew you was going to bring that up. The turf played against me. That's all I'm saying. I
couldn't even hit the ball, bro. I had cramp in both calves. 20 minutes deep. Right, here we go.
Harry. Please don't
come
put
on,
this
Kane.
Harry
corner.
Kane.
Come on, Kane.
He's been absolutely
Please don't
non-existent
put
in
this
this
top
game.
corner.
Bless him as Harold Kane.
Oh,
Can
you might as
steal
well.
the
You might as well,
limelight?
Kane. Oh,
No.
Reset that.
Yeah. All right, cool. I've got next question for Darren, and it is: what was it like playing against Manchester United after you left for the first time?
It was strange. The first time was back at Old Trafford, obviously West Brom, and I made a conscious effort of making sure I went in the right dressing room, doing all these things. And I'm captain of West Brom, and I get into the United side, and obviously they got it on TV, and the United team come out and tell me, oh yeah, so I did everything right up until, obviously when you're in game zone and you walk down that tunnel, I've always stood on the left hand side, and somebody had to tell me, no, you're in the away team, you've got to stand on the right hand side. So I put myself on. Listen, fortunate enough we won. Listen, I was desperate to win. Not going to lie, I was desperate to win. I'm playing for West Brom now, and I did really well. We managed to get a few wins against Man United and a draw. First game back, we won, and we needed to win because we did well, but then we did a couple of iffy results, and we're getting sucked back into the relegation battle. So it ended up being a massive win for us. We won 1-0. And
No, Luke.
like anything, they're the. Oh, here's a chance.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
Marcus.
Penalty!
Oh my God!
Penalty!
Yes!
oh my God! Oh, Jose's fuming.
John Moss.
Do you know what?
John Moss.
It's soft, but I
Moss,
think
United
it's right.
legend.
I think he stamps on him.
What has happened here? You got
No,
a
you
full
gotta
body
check
shot,
VAR for
Tomlinson.
that.
What's going on?
I think there's
Oh, what is
contact. You know, I
going
think it's a
on?
penalty.
Is it going
That's
to
so
be
poor from Aurier.
Oh, he doesn't touch him.
that's
No,
not
it's
pen.
no penalty.
That's not pen. That's not pen. It's
Surely.
not pen.
That's
If
a
they
dart.
give that, that is injustice.
No.
Nah,
Oh, it's
No,
a dart.
no.
Unless it's
John
momentum
Moss, you're having a
carrying
mare
on.
lad.
I think John Moss
Can't
was
be
on the
given.
price bet. Price boost.
Yeah, but isn't it the right thing to do as a referee to give the penalty and then to get it reversed rather than not give it and you can't bring it
Yeah,
back
you're
from
right.
the
It's
yard?
probably,
Is that right?
probably sensible.
Yeah,
High stakes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Referees
for
need a
him
bit
to
of
say
time to get
that
back
and
to
then...
match fitness,
I
match
think
sharpness.
Rashford should.
But why are they
I
just
think
looking
Rashford
at?
probably
Why are they just
should
looking
have.
at that angle?
No, fair enough. He's
think
used the
Rashford
technology.
probably
That's what it's
should
there
have,
for. It's not a penalty. Okay. Oh, we thought we had some last-minute drama on the cards there. That's not been the case.
Oh.
Just touching
Oh,
upon your
yeah,
period
I
at West
need
Brom
that
again,
draw.
Darren. Is it something you look upon with great pride? Because obviously you'd come back from illness, you'd struggle to play, a large amount of games in a singular season. Then you'd go on to play sort of every single minute during your stint at West Brom over the course of 2.5 seasons.
Well, I think for outfield players, I think I've got the third highest record or something like that for consecutive games when I went to West Brom, but especially off the back of, being out for so long with an illness and people telling me I'd potentially never play again, to then go and play that many games, train every day, is something I'm really proud of, and I loved every minute of my time at West Brom, and we achieved great success from the position where the club were in to the position they were in when I left. It went fantastically well. I've got great time for the club, and as I said, I was ready for the new challenge to play every week. Man United wasn't quite the same club anymore. I'd been out for basically 3 years, been ill, and I wanted to play every week. And I enjoyed every minute of it, and I've got great time for everyone at the club and everyone associated with the club. And it's something I look back on fondly, to play that number of games on every league game and to have a run like that together. Yeah.
Yeah, rightly so, mate.
But
Monumental effort, that. Go on, Sam.
And what's the difference, like, in emotions when you're battling against a relegation and battling for a title?
Well,
Do you know what? It's worse battling relegation. I found it a lot more pressure. I didn't find it pressure playing for Manchester United. I found it exciting to go and challenge for trophies. Yeah, there was an expectation, but that was what I was used to, and I found it exciting.
Yeah.
But when you're battling relegation, it actually turns to pressure, and there's a lot more riding on it, and yeah, it was definitely a different dynamic, completely different. The best way I could describe it is relegation does feel like pressure. Going for titles feels exciting. Or that's what it was
Darren,
like
could
for
you have
me
signed for
anyway.
Celtic at any point?
There was opportunities. It just didn't quite happen. Different times and things like that.
About 3 summers in a
I've got
row, I was telling everyone you're going to Celtic Park, Darren.
I've got a great relationship with. I've got a great relationship with Peter Law and the people at Celtic, and it just didn't quite happen. I think initially I was desperate to stay in the Premier League to prove I could still play in the Premier League, and then things change, and it's amazing what the difference a couple of years makes and things like that. And it never happened. There was opportunities, there was talks at different times, but it never got more than just general chat. Really, it never got into anything serious. Unfortunate, really, because I'd have loved it to happen. It was just unfortunate timing on a number of occasions, really. Yeah.
I had you on my Football Manager save anyway, so we'll leave it at that.
What a ball
we got
that
any
is!
More, that is excellent defenders. That's
Joe's gone full fan zone.
Sissoko, yeah, Sissoko, was it?
Sissoko. I'm watching it on a 2-inch screen here.
Oh my word.
Okay, Sam. Let's. I'm sure there's plenty of questions left, so let's do the subscribers and the visitors justice by rattling through some before we wrap up the show.
So, who was the best player to play against? I mean, not play against, to play with at Manchester United. Like, who gave you joy, like when you was playing alongside them?
Honestly, I can't answer one. There's that many. I'd be doing so many.
Yeah, that's a tough question, but
it's so hard. I know. Listen, and I hate being put on the spot because I always say the same people, and I always say like Cristiano and Scholes, and then I think Roy Keane, and I think Wazza, and then I think Ryan Giggs, Ruud van Nistelrooy. I just I'm so blessed, honestly, to play with all these great players.
What do you mean?
So if you were to start to make your all-time Man United XI, who'd the player to get in?
Or Mason.
The first player to get in is Cristiano Ronaldo. Oh! Now, listen.
Oh, that was the chance. I knew Mason was going to do him. I knew Mason was going to stand him up, go on to the right. That was the chance.
There's something very Robin van Persie about Mason, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The technique and the chop and the way he moves.
He didn't get wide enough. He didn't get wide enough for that. But you said Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, if I'm a manager and I'm picking a United team tomorrow, the first person got to be Cristiano Ronaldo.
Bruno, mate, come on.
You know, he's a match winner. He's a goal scorer. He was unbelievable. That the seasons he had at United before he left were just ridiculous. You know, that best player in the world level. We've had some great players, but you know, to actually have the best player in the world at the time in your team, and to see how hard he worked to get to that level as well, and when to tell people he was going to do it as well, to back it up, you know, and a great guy as well. Can I just throw that in there? One of the most popular teammates, liked by everybody, funny, charismatic, kind, caring, everything. Just an unbelievable guy and a great teammate.
How many of this team do you think you could get to play against Arsenal fan TV? Anyway, no, I won't make you answer that question. Right, that is
Arsenal
the game.
Fan TV. I could get a right good squad, let me tell you.
That is full time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Manchester United deservedly, I think, get a point after that strong second half showing. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tinkering with the side to great effect there. Let's have a quick look at the table then before we have last questions for Darren. Starting from the top, Manchester United still in 5th place, still a decent way behind securing a Champions League berth, but not a bad showing away from home. We did raise beforehand that they didn't have the best away record in recent times, only 4 wins from 18 games. So it's a point they'll probably take. Tottenham may be a bit more disappointing for them if they had any aspirations of a late surge, but I think even the most positive Tottenham fan has probably discounted Champions League football at this point. In fact, most of the Tottenham fans in the office just want to finish above Arsenal. I don't know what that says about them. Let's have a look at the bottom half of the table. And not an awful lot of change. Southampton, of course, moving up to 13th after that very sort of rudimentary victory over Norwich. They looked extremely strong, or Norwich, you know, without that home advantage, without the crowd, looking extremely weak. The jury's probably still out on that performance. But a welcome 3 points for Ralph Hasenhüttl's men, who have been, you know, it's ebbed and flowed for them this season, hasn't it? Gents, shall we sum up this game very quickly before jumping to our promo for the next episode of the Football Social? Joe, starting with you, mate. What did you make of that performance?
Do you know what? I'm taking quite a lot of positives from that Manchester United performance. I think we had a dodgy 30 minutes at the end of the first half, but overall I think we were the dominant team in the game. I don't think Tottenham really caused us a single problem second half. I can't remember David De Gea making a save after half time. And And I think there's definitely positives to be seen with Paul Pogba and Bruno's partnership in midfield. I think Darren's right. If they can both play as that sort of shuttling eight, maybe Bruno a little bit more advanced and Pogba picking passes from deep, then there's plenty of positives to take from that. Mason Greenwood looked good when he came on wide. I think Rashford had a bit of a quiet afternoon comparative to some of his standards. And to be honest with you, I'm still feeling positive of our push for sort of fifth place if it does hold a Champions League place. I think we can blow teams away with Pogba and Bruno playing in central midfield, and our run-in certainly suggests that we should.
Yeah, right to raise the fifth place, potentially being a Champions League place as well, something that I keep forgetting about, given that that sort of the CAS ruling keeps getting pushed further and further back, doesn't it? Darren, your thoughts on the game, mate? Final thoughts?
Yeah, listen, it was always going to be difficult. First game back after lockdown with no fans, the game started that way. It was a little bit slow, flat, which I think suited Tottenham. And United were passing it around, and it was a little bit of it was a non-event really in the beginning. United slightly edged it. Great goal from Spurs' point of view. And United really didn't really know what to do after that. And you could tell that Ollie got into them at half-time because the tempo really raised initially. And then it was the substitutions that impacted the game. Mason Greenwood, Pogba comes in, and as we spoke about, looked dangerous. The team looked better. Him and Bruno looked creative. They were flowing, and there was movement. People coming short, people running beyond. It looked a lot more fluid and expansive, but that was to do with Spurs sitting deep as well. And it's a good point for Manchester United to go away to Spurs, to go a goal down, to then claw back to get a point. I think they wouldn't have accepted it before the game, but when you see the way the game played out, there's a lot of positives in there to show character, to come back and to get a point from being a goal down against a Jose Mourinho team who essentially sat back deep and tried to park the bus to see out their 1-0 win. They usually managed to do it. So credit to United. And as Joe said, positives. Everyone questioned whether Fernandes and Pogba could play together. Of course they can play together. They're both top-class players and can be compatible. They can both play as eights. They can both play as tens. They can dovetail. They can switch in game. There's so much flexibility in this United team just now, and exciting to see going forward, and a good starting point from lockdown and from where we were at.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was 9 victories and 11 before this, wasn't it? And a draw away from home, like Darren said, does nothing to hinder or hamper that momentum. Sam, 1-1, pretty good from a Chelsea fan's perspective.
Yeah, I'm happy with the result. That leaves us 2 points clear with a game in hand. So obviously that's good. The only negative for me is seeing how strong United look with Pogba and Fernandes on the pitch together. They just look so much better with both of them on the pitch. So I think it's going to be quite tight coming up to the end, the last games of the season.
Okay, great. Let's have a look at the next time the Football Social is gracing your screens again then. And it is this Sunday, and have to wait long. It is, of course, the Merseyside derby at Goodison, Everton versus Liverpool at 6:45pm on Soccer AM and Football Daily's YouTube channels. But you guys know that by now. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're already thinking about your questions for the next episode. Darren, massive thank you for coming on, buddy. It's been an absolute privilege to have a man of your standing on our Pokey Football show. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Listen, do you know what? I really did enjoy myself, and thanks. I love the football chat with everyone. Love everyone's enthusiasm for the game, and listen, I watch you guys quite regularly on these things, so it's good to be a part of it for once, and hopefully I'll come and join you again. And I'm joining your five-a-side and your football team as well, so I'll definitely be.
Come on,
what
a partnership!
We're the real winners today. We're the real winners.
Becky and Fletcher in the middle. Come on.
I'm not going to lie. Okay, I am demanding, so you're going to have to deal with my verbals and my high standards. You know what I mean? So
that's fine.
You know what I mean?
That's fine.
Yeah, that suits me down to
say that,
you're
Sam.
taking
I've
my
never
place
played
straight away. I'll be supporting you from the side. I'll be supporting you from the sidelines, Darren. Joe, Sam, excellent as always. I'm sure his guys' faces again in the not too distant future. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I said before, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.